No. Just waiting for the cue.
This is for Monday. Yes. I'm gonna want to do them shortly. Yeah. I'm just.
Good evening. I call this work session of the Greenbelt City Council to order. My name is Emmett Jordan.
Does it sound good?
Mayor, Council, will you introduce yourselves, please?
Kristen Weaver, Mayor Pro Tem.
Becky Fritz, council member.
Member. All right, Silky Pope, council member.
Okay, Councilmember McKinney is on travel tonight. I don't know if she's going to dial. I think she said she was not going to be able to dial in. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, before we begin, are there any information items, discussion topics for later tonight? We got one. It's not weather related, are they? No. Okay. So, Council holds work sessions on Mondays and Wednesdays several times a month to exchange information with community stakeholders and gather input from staff, advisory boards, and residents. No votes or formal actions are taken during our work sessions. Tonight's session is open to the public, as are all council meetings, except for executive sessions as authorized by state law. Residents can observe our deliberations, and we'll pause periodically to provide opportunities for public comment. If you wish to speak during these times, if you're here in person, just raise your hand. After being recognized, you can go over to the podium. You'll need to state your name and an address. And if you are on Zoom, you can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, or you can raise your virtual hand. And we don't accept anonymous comments on Zoom. And finally, if you're watching on cable TV or Facebook or YouTube, you can just send us an email. The email address is questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So please limit your remarks to 3 minutes of public comment. And just stick to one topic, the topic that we're talking about, preferably. And we ask, as always, that you remain civil and avoid disparaging remarks about others or questioning people's motives. We don't do that. So tonight we are actually having an interesting work session on unfunded capital needs. We're coming up on the budget process in the next month.
Can you go back to the...
So this list of large unfunded capital projects, capital needs, is something that we review from time to time, but I don't think we've really looked at this as a council in a few years. So I thought that it is very, very important to get a clear, shared picture of what these large unfunded capital needs are and the choices that they're going to force us to look at. I believe there's over $65 million in identified projects, unfunded projects, along with significant vehicle replacements, which is a burden, which will kind of hit us now and hit us in a few years. So the goal tonight is to kind of talk a little bit about what is truly urgent, what we can kind of sequence, and what direction we want to give staff as we kind of move ahead. So I'm hoping that everybody has taken a look at the list. I'm sure that everybody has, and I'd like to have an opportunity for us all to kind of state our top one or two concerns going into this discussion. Another reason why we're talking about this is as we go into the budget session, the budget process after the city manager presents us with his draft, we have to make some tough decisions. And I've asked what it's going to look like in talking with department heads. I've asked the city manager to actually ask that question, looking at 5%. If we had to, if departments had to either cut by 5% or increase revenue by 5%, what would they do? So that's another thought in my mind that's kind of informing this discussion. So we'll start off with a concise staff overview of the capital project list and vehicle replacement list. But once again, let's kind of focus on deadlines tied to grants or external partners. And for the vehicle fleet, just kind of taking a look at immediate needs, 2026, and the future bubble. We bought a lot of vehicles, replaced a lot of vehicles with our American Rescue Plan funding, I guess 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, because we did that all at once, that's going to create a bubble 6 or 7 years out. So, we have to kind of plan on how we can mitigate that somehow. So, I'd like to just say hello to our city manager, Josue Samaron. How are you tonight, Mr. Samaron?
Hello. Good evening, man. I'm doing well, thank you. It's James is kind of loud. I'm well, thank you. It's a good evening. We have great news to share, and we'll get to that. And when we get to those items down the on the list, one of the big projects that we've been actively working to fund is the youth center replacement, and we now we have two approvals for that project, and so it's a really exciting place to be. But we'll get to that further down the list. Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Mayor, to the topic. You requested this meeting, and one of the concerns I had, as I expressed to you, is like, gosh, there's so many on this list that we don't know how we're going to fund it all. So I look forward to hearing council ideas and solutions on how we're going to fund it all, because there's a lot of projects on the list. We've organized the list by priority area, and those priority areas are what's imminent within the 1 to 3 year range. Now, before going further, I want to recognize Mr. Tim George for working on the list with the team. I also want to recognize Caitlin and Dan who are in the audience and who have an interest in one particular project that's on here. So, Mr. Mayor, I know you and I can talk for hours on this, but if at any point you want to skip to the items that are of interest to the public, and that way we can have our nerdy conversations about the other things on the list. Um, so yeah, so you got two tables included in the packet. One is the vehicles list, and as you can see from that list, there's over 15 vehicles that need replacement from the police department, and those are the vehicles that are listed as immediate. And what's driving that are two things: the age of the vehicle and the mileage that's on those vehicles. And as you know, our fleet, we provide take home vehicles, and so these vehicles are used regularly to get to and from residents for the officers and working on the field. So, they're not vehicles sitting around in the parking lots. They're actively used all the time. And we're very thankful for the opportunity to catch up with some of our vehicle replacements using the American Rescue dollars, but that money's run out. And in the current year, council had approved the replacement of three vehicles, two of which were hybrid engine vehicles, and one is our electric vehicle, which I got word today it's sitting in a Baltimore lot, ready to be delivered to us, and then we'll take it to the outfitters to get it fitted with the police equipment. So we're looking at just a couple weeks to introduce that vehicle to the fleet and put it in service. So that's the one list is the vehicles. The second table is with the title is unfunded capital projects. It's listed by project name, department, priority, and the amount. At the end of the sheet, we've also included unprogrammed funds. Those are things that are included in the budget book that do not have funding. And we've included those, but you should have seen all of those projects already. Further down the list, we've grouped the projects by what their total cost is and their corresponding priority or designation, what's high, medium, or low. So of that $65 million, Mr. Mayor, 8.7 million is categorized as high, 50 million is medium, and 6 million is low. And then we've done a further breakout of what is the high category, low, medium category by departments. So that high category, you'll see that 8.7 million broken out by what are the different departments: planning, public works, administration, and recreations. And then on the medium, you'll see the rest of the remaining $50 million listed in that medium category and 6 million in the low category. All right. So one of the
Yeah, the packet and the unfunded capital project list is not in the packet, the written one that people have on the table. If anybody's like Michael, do you see that unfunded capital project list? No.
Tim, do you know what's going on with that? put it up on the screen. How about I do that? Share. Where's my share button?
It's on the online one. It's the unfunded capital projects fiscal year 2027 is the one that doesn't see that I guess isn't in the paper one.
So this one, this the one that you're talking about, Mr. Merritt, that I have up on
Yes.
the screen. Okay, so we'll have that up on the screen and make that list available. So we also have Kim Cash that just joined us, and I believe that Kim Cash also has a particular interest in the citywide wayfinding project. This particular project, while is listed as a medium priority, I see a lot of value in moving this project up to the high designation, just because wayfinding and getting and driving traffic into Roosevelt Center has been a challenge. Further, there's another justification of moving it up, and that is that we have recently been awarded the 150,000 facade improvement program, which is designated to be an investment into the Roosevelt Center and Greenbelt Center. So linking those two projects together, or creating synergy between the two, I think could provide greater impact to both projects collectively, and deliver greater value if done together than phasing it out or doing them separately. All right, so Mayor, that's the overview. Do you want me to start from the top of the list and work our way down, or should we start with the wayfinding?
If let's start from the top, I guess. Hey, if you could just kind of, if you put it up on the screen.
I think this one is the one that's prioritized, the one that's already up on the screen.
Oh, okay.
All right, so starting from the top, the first one on the list is the Armory site. As you know, with any abandoned building, the longer it sits, the more problematic it gets. Council has received the presentation on the Armory. There was a recommendation to demolish the site, just because the feasibility of repurposing that building just to restore the conditions will cost somewhere around 10 million, and that's without considering the use of the building. That's just to rehab it to its existing use, and not making all the improvements that would need it. We're talking about the remediation and then replacing the heating system and all the systems that it currently has. That just cost 10 million. I know there was a resident that joined us for the presentation from the at the time when the consultant presented the options to council, and there was a lot of support from at least that resident that demolishing was perhaps the best way to go with this building. Obviously, council, it is a decision of council, and we wait for directional council on how do you want to move with that project. So that's the top of the list because the property is vacant. Then we have a couple smaller projects.
As we're working through here, some of the projects we've there's an X, which indicates that there's external funding that we've secured.
So not that we have secure, we have identified. There are some projects that we have secured, such as the Greenbelt Station, a trail that has $1 million listed in there. We have identified and secure some of that funding, but we still need. If you see the footnote or the comment on that project, it's expected to be a $4 million total project, of which we have 3 million in grant funds, a combination of the tip and the tap project. So we still have a $1 million amount that needs to be made up somehow. And if you're wondering, is that really going to cost us $4 million? Yes. 2 million is just the physical road infrastructure, and another 2 million the utility in the technology infrastructure as required by WMATA. So this requires full electricity, cameras, and intercom systems along the trail for emergency calling.
Of course, the $1 million, that's time sensitive. We have grants that have to be, it has to be spent at some point pretty soon. So,
Yes, and that's the issue we're also seeing with the museum, that we have the trail grants and the museum grants, that we are at risk of losing those grants because we haven't been able to execute them for a while. Also, those grant dollars that we secure, their purchasing power is reduced over time due to the inflation. So, for example, that Greenbelt Station Trail,
It's
That
about
was
6 years old. The
right, and
funding that we have.
that was
TAP
expected
funding.
to be $3 million. Now we're looking at $4 million. Likewise for the museum, now that project, Tim, that's now at 550 or 650, 650, when it was initially projected to be 500,000. So that's an additional 100,000. So there is a cost to waiting to do things.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Mayor Pro Tem, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because for the armory, we had asked on the community survey about that, and I know we had talked about it. It often takes us a long time to get the full results, but I believe we talked before the election last year about maybe being able to get at least that question, the results of that question in a bit more timely fashion. And I think that's something that I would very much like to see is since we did ask that question. And even if we can't get the rest of the results, at least that one would be helpful as soon as possible.
Tim's aware of that and is working to
Okay.
get us that. And
Thank you.
I regret that as of today, February 4th, we still do not have a contract with UMD for the analysis. So
Do we have the raw data ourselves? Or
We do. And yeah, so I had a conversation with the MD before I went on vacation a week or so ago. We're arriving at a contract. The problem is they've had some restructuring. So the same group is going to do the work that did the work before, but they're going to be doing it through a third party as opposed to through the university. So we're working through that. We do have the raw data. I mean, we have all the hard surveys. We've got the several hundred in digital. James has those on the server. So we're going to sit down with staff and just have a survey party and just count the current question. We're just going to tabulate all those, and then we're going to box them up. I was in conversation with our UMD rep yesterday in order to arrange to finalize that contract for Joswe's signature, and then for them to come by and pick up the surveys and get cranking on them.
okay.
Even with the delay, they're still confident that they can get us the data back analyzed by May, at least the tabulated data by May, and then the written data will come in June.
Okay. Are there other projects on here where funding has been identified or secured that are at risk? We really need to spend down these grants or the funding that we have in the next year or 2 years.
the museum is one. The trail. I don't think you need the other ones. Tim, do any of them stick out to you?
Indian Creek, we've got a grant that we're working on. Let's see.
But that we're not at risk of losing funding. That one we haven't secured. So we're actively looking to secure funding on all the projects. For example, the next one down, the third one on the list is implementation of the cemetery master plan recommendation. We're going to pursue ATHA funding for that. The capital project that's 100,000, but that's only 1/3 of the total project cost. So we'll still need to secure an additional 200,000. We talked about the Greenbelt Station. Then we have the Indian Creek Park Master Plan, the implementation. Based on the initial concepts, we're looking at $2 million and over for that. The funding source that have been identified for that is the project open space funding.
Ah.
And we've had a lot of success with that project. The next one on the list is the youth center roof replacement project at 1.5 million. As I shared with council, that project had received approval at the county level, and it's scheduled to be heard by the Board of Public Works on the February 18th meeting. And once it makes it on the agenda, it's bound to get approved, and we're expecting approval. However, just this afternoon, we receive wonderful news that both of our projects submitted to the federal earmarks program were approved. That is $1,554,000 for the youth center replacement and $250,000 for the Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center expansion program. That's the idea of connecting the clubhouse to the primary structure, the recreation facility at Spring Hill Lake. So good news will help us move both projects forward. Now we have what I think is a good problem to have, which is to reach back out to Board of Public Works and figure out what to, if we can shift that $1.5 million that they're scheduled to approve for us at the February 18th meeting.
That's fantastic news. That's really, really great news. Did that come from the House side or the Senate side?
We receive approval from both the House representatives and the senator. So the Van Hollen was our primary point of contact on the congressional side, and Senator also Brooks was the sponsor on the Senate side.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, thank-
Yeah. Mayor
Now,
Pro Tem.
Congressman Ivey has also been very supportive on both projects. So yeah, they make a great team. Well, Hoyer's a force to reckon with in Congress.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah. So what is the sense of the flexibility we might have in shifting the money from the Board of Public Works to something else? Like, what are they going to be? Do you have a sense of how willing they're going to be to do that, and what kinds of projects they might be willing to do that for? Does it need to be something that's substantially similar to that? And I guess the other question: did we also put in money, the grant, the LGEM grants for? Was that for solar panels after the roof is done? Because that was also the youth center, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that's a separate project.
Okay.
The project, I don't think is the called the LGEM program anymore. Yeah, it's called something else. So we submitted two applications for that project. One is the youth center roof, and the second was the Green Ridge House. Combined, those two programs will create a solar generation system exceeding 400 kilowatt system.
But that was that was just the solar panels. That was separate from the roof replacement on the youth center. Okay, so so we haven't asked for money for three projects for the same three phases for the same project. That's after we get the roof done. Okay.
Great, and just some background. You may wonder why we're pursuing all these opportunities for the same project. Well, with a lot of grant seeking, is you have no guarantee that you're going to get it, and the youth center roof needs to be replaced. It isn't a question that it's something that can wait. It's leaking. It's actively leaking, so it needs to be replaced. We had applied for the roof project with the federal earmarks 2 years ago, and then we were awarded, was it 250? 250. We were awarded 250 2 years ago, but then new administration came in, and the White House and Congress did away with earmarks 2 years ago. So no one was funded 2 years ago from the federal earmarks. So we are just over the moon that this year we were awarded the full amount and not the 250 we had been awarded 2 years ago.
It's fantastic news. It really is. Let's keep going.
All right, the next one is the youth center boilers. This is a smaller project, 75. We some of these replacement projects, they're difficult to find money for. The boiler, obviously it's it uses gas to burn it. And before Mr. Hartman asked, we can't convert this to a geothermal system at that cost. It would just cost so much more. Um, so there's the boiler would need to be replaced. Then we have in one of our tours with council, we showed council the wall separation at the community center, the 67 wing. So we have that wing to repair. Public Works is estimating 250,000 for that project. That's also one that we haven't been able to identify a funding source that fits nicely into that. We also have some HVAC work that needs to be done at the community center. Then the municipal building needs some work, 15,000. We'll probably look to fund that project this year through our budget cycle, upcoming budget cycle. We have 3 elevators that need to be replaced. That's the second elevator at the community center, the elevator at the municipal building, and the elevator at the police station. Just some background: we had in last year bond bills. We were able to get 200,000 for that one elevator at the community center, and we move forward. Council has approved that contract. We submitted the notice to proceed to the contractor. So we're looking at a installation date of late August, early September, after the summer camps are over. We'll have less demand for space around that time. Um, we did look into at the request of council, um, based on a recommendation from Mr. Hartman. You wanted to see a functional substitute for that elevator while that elevator's down for over 6 weeks. The team, we looked at it and we didn't put it in the spreadsheet because we could get a proposal from a contractor to install a lift chair, but the time it would take to just get the permits, it just really isn't worth spending the money securing that, because by that time we were even able, we'll have the elevators in. So it really is a project that not only costs money, but it's really not feasible to explore because it's a historic building. We will have to submit a formal proposal to the historic trust. And Miss McGruth is in the building, and she knows how difficult it is to work with that entity. Even to replace toilets, we have to submit drawings for a toilet to be replaced.
So what is feasible is we can move our programming around so that it's on the same level as opposed to a lift. We'll have to just shift. So let's just kind of focus on what we can do.
Right, absolutely. And we said that from the very beginning that we would shift programming to accommodate the seniors and the low level. And a lot of the programming for seniors is happening at the on the ground on the first floor. All right, moving on, we have the bridge
Tim?
improvements.
Oh, okay.
We have bridge improvements right now. It's estimated as 125,000. This number is likely to increase once we get into working on the bridge because I've never heard of a bridge being, cost effective. It's two bridges.
Which bridges?
Bridge, yeah.
The one that requires significant work is the Cherrywood right over the 495. Yes. So we need to replace the fencing, and there's anchors and the what makes up the retaining wall on that bridge.
The second one?
Oh, the metro. Yes, it's a little one that goes over the creek. That goes over the creek, going
Right.
into metro. Yeah.
That's what I.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment because I hadn't gotten this put into a report yet, but in the Transportation and Infrastructure Services Committee meeting last week, they were talking about because we're up for transportation reauthorization is coming up soon. One of the things was about advocating for a highway trust fund and funding for municipalities, which I know is something that came up in our legislative discussion. But the other thing is that NLC is working on drafting something, a bill to propose for that. And one of the things they mentioned was that bridges, and especially funding for local bridges that need repairs. I didn't write down the exact stats, but I think, locally owned bridges are much more likely to be in poor repair than state ones, I think probably because of these funding issues. So just wanted to mention that is something that NLCTIS is planning to advocate for. So there may be, that wouldn't be immediate, but that maybe that will open up some opportunities for us to get some funding to do those repairs.
I gotta tell you, there's a couple of county bridges around. There's a couple of bridges around here that scare me when I look at them closely, like Powder Mill Road. They're going over between Kenilworth and Route One, and I don't see how they can actually work on that without closing it completely. And if they closed it, it would be a huge mess. But please go on.
All right, moving on, we've got the Shrum Hills Park fuel lights. Those are we've got a number there, 700,000. Um, we have a beautiful field. It's competition grade. And we wanna ensure that it gets used properly. So we got the fence, but it is lacking lights. And council was very supportive of putting the lights on there. We did submit that as a request for the bond bill. Uh, Money this year. So we hope to have some success. We've got two very competitive projects, and just as a reminder, that's the field lights and the pavilion at Bariatric Park. That Bariatric Park is, there are some amenities included on there. So part of that ask is down at that recreations. It's listed as medium at $750,000. And that park amenities is based on the master plan that council approved. making that ADA trail down to the pavilion up all around, which currently does not exist. All right, then the Greenbelt Museum. Greenbelt Museum, we've got an ask here for 360,000. The total project expense is expected at 660. We have secured 300,000 so far, and so we're a little bit less than halfway through. There are two tangible things that we want to execute in the next year, and that is we want to hire a project manager to get the project started on the 300,000. That's demolition of the rear addition, and executing the first $300,000 that we have, because we're at risk of losing these grants. We need to move forward.
Bond bill from our state delegation, I believe, and that was 4 or 5 years ago.
One is a bond bill for $100,000. Then we have two Maryland Historic Trust grants, one in the amount of $100,000 and one for $50,000. Those are the grants that Megan referenced on during Monday's presentation, and the other $50,000 are made up of smaller grants that we have received. So that gets us to that $300,000.
How are we working with the Friends of the Museum group, the board? They have a board. They have a separate 501c3, although we have an arrangement on staffing. So has the board made a request to the city to sit down and talk about next steps?
I understand that the board is working hard and diligently to secure funding, and it's just been difficult to fundraise for this project. So that I'm glad you asked that question, because that brings me to the second ask of council, and that is for us to pay for a capital fundraiser, to have professional help to raise the additional capital needed for the project so that we can move forward with this project. I think council made a very strong commitment by acquiring these properties many years ago, and I think it's important that we see it as our property and treat it as our property, and make the necessary investment that we committed to.
Yeah, as I was saying, we talked about this a little bit. And, I think we need to talk a little bit with the Friends Board and see the work that's already been done. They did a feasibility study. They've got some plans in place, and we just need to kind of
Yeah, and I
check
understand.
in on it if we haven't.
And I understand Megan's online, so Ms. Megan Yan, if you want to weigh in on this.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Yes, so the current iteration of the Friends of the Greenbelt Museum Board has drafted a letter they were hoping to send to city management and council, inviting everyone to for a site visit to sort of take a look at the condition and review the plan.
Councilmember Pompey.
Hello? Hello? Okay, that's working now. Do we have an estimate on first of all, I think it's great. I think having a site visit for council and staff to the museum, I think that's a great idea. I really look forward to that. And I was just wondering, is there an estimate for how much you'd like to see budgeted for a capital campaign fundraiser? Like the person.
Well, our ask would be to get that 360 so we can do the project. The capital fundraiser, um, Meg, you spent 20,000. What do you estimate would be an amount that we would need to execute on that capital fundraising plan?
Okay, thank you.
Do you still have the RFP that you used initially? Yes.
Yes, I believe you do.
Okay. I wouldn't mind getting a look at that, but yeah.
Sure, we
Thank you so much.
we
So
can make
I'd
that
love-
available, and you know we I think we need to see that the cost of hiring a consultant to do capital fundraising as an investment, right? If we spend $40,000 to secure $300,000, what's the return on the investment?
Hey, thank you so much, Megan. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it. And we'll set that up as soon as possible to come over and visit. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, all right. Let me find my sheet here. Um,
Streetlights.
Streetlights.
Streetlights. Streetlights. The streetlights. This is an interesting approach to raising the money of this, because at just about every proposal I've seen, whether it's Tanco or George Woodbury, on the feasibility of municipality acquiring and converting their lights to LED technologies, we end up getting the return on the investment, and anywhere between 3 to 6 years. And then there's all of this savings that the LED lights would save. So right now we have a figure of $450,000 for the street lights, to convert the street lights, but we really won't know until Pepco decides to tell us how much they want for their light fixtures now, and then we go out to the market and put out an RFP to get a contractor to change the light fixtures to a light fixture that Pepco will accept. Pepco has provided a set of light fixtures that they're considering to approve, um, but we haven't been able to go out to the market and get pricing for them with installation costs, because Pepco just hasn't offered that option to us, that we can execute the acquisition and the conversion. So
Yeah, council member.
Um, so let me just say first, when I joined council 2 years ago, I had no idea how much I was going to learn about streetlights and like acquiring them and the different kinds of streetlights. And I just really, I had never given even a second's thought to streetlights until I mean, it's kind of incredible. Now they take up a lot of my brain space. Anyway. That said, I mean, well, do you feel like realistically, I just feel like we're always sort of like chasing the purchase of these lights down, and it's like we're almost there, but we're not ever getting there to where we're like, is it really feasible that this is going to be the year that we could possibly purchase these lights? Like, is that because you were just talking about all of the things that we have to do before we can just even get to that point? So, do you think that it's really realistic that this could be the fiscal year that we take possession of those lights?
From my perspective, it just Pepco just needs to agree to sell them. Like I don't and I don't think they really have a choice. I think that the choice is pretty clear. The Public Utilities Commission say if you're not since you're not converting these lights, you must provide an opportunity for the municipalities to acquire and convert those lights. The Utility Commission's been clear. It's getting to that process of agreeing to what the lights are going to cost. I mean, we've been fighting over which lights are we responsible for, and I think that for the most part we've sorted that out. Um, the big dispute was with the State Highway Administration, but we sorted that out. We were fighting over four lights, and at that point, I was ready to take on the four lights that were in dispute, and we ended up accepting them.
Yeah. I mean, I would just love to see this be a project that makes it to completion. I just feel like you've been working on this, like it just feels like for so long. So
Yeah, in the sense, and Pepco at times gives the sense of urgency that they're eager to get this started. They've
They
sent
did
out
it first. It seemed like they
right.
wanted to do it immediately.
really want to get rid of these lights, but why don't we have them yet? Then I
I just think we need to work with our delegation, our senator and delegates, and get them to actually compel to work with the Public Utilities Commission to compel Pepco to go ahead and do something. So can we write a letter, just etch it out to our senator and our delegates and to the Public Utility Commission, because I think they can help us.
Yes, we can continue to do the advocacy. As you know, for 2 years in a row now, Mr. Mayor, it's been part of our legislative priorities with the delegations, and it's been part of our presentation at the District 22 dinner with the delegates and the senators. So we can certainly continue to
I'm not
push for
sure that
those
we
efforts.
framed it in such a way that that we want them to try and compel the Public Utility Commission to force Pepco to go ahead, and I think they'll be receptive to doing that.
Yeah. Now, full disclosure, I've kind of executed my own strategy with Pepco, and that's perhaps one of the most powerful tools that I have, and that is not to pay the bill. So we haven't paid the street lights bill in several months. So I just got the bill last week, and we're now at $113,000 in arrears. And the position I've taken is that for over a year, I know that we've been overbilled. So I've asked to have the bill corrected, get credit for the 3 years in arrears that they owe us, and I will happily resume paying the bill. But they have not provided a resolution, so I can't, in good conscience, pay a bill that I know is wrong. Um, so you may hear from Pepco that we are delinquent in our streetlights bill.
Have we been able to get any of our sister municipalities to join us in this action?
Well, the other municipalities on different stages. College Park has retained Sue Ellen on this matter. A lawyer, Sue Ellen is an attorney who's also an attorney on other matters. The Chases, which are the five Chevy Chases. I know there were that many Chases. They have an attorney as well, and it's Sue Ellen that's representing them. And I understand that there are other municipalities were joining the Chases. Um, I have not joined those litigation groups in part because one, I know Sue Ellen and she does a great job, and whatever she's able to secure for Polish Park and others, I think we will be able to ride that wave, if you will, get the benefits of that negotiation. But it's been very tempting for us to file our own suit. And at some point, Pepco's got to realize that it's not in their interest to have so many lawyers coming after them.
Okay, but still, I do want to get some correspondence that to try and to ask the Public Utility Commission to kind of step in because I think they can.
Okay, I will write a letter to the utility commission. That said, I wanna state that we have a good working relationship with Pepco on all other matters. We have Alberto and Roni. They are the government affairs representatives, and they've been very accessible, very collaborative. We also had successes in other projects. We received the sustainability grant that's paying for the cold storage um, project. We have received the rebates for the chiller program at the community center. We upgraded the Braden Field lights to LED lights, and Pepco helped us with a rebate for that. So it, there are some things that work really well. The street lights hasn't been one of them, but I see potential for it to working out well.
Mr. Hartman, you've had your hand up for a while. Please.
Michael Hartman, is this working?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Michael Hartman, 2 Cook Garden Way. When you're doing the streetlights, I would strongly suggest that you look at the intersections because the intersections, a lot of them are very dark and the lighting is not adequate. And especially when someone's making a right turn from one street, like from Southway to Ridge, going towards the center, you really can't see a lot of the sidewalk and the crosswalk. And I would hope that when you do look at the lighting, that you pay particular attention to intersections for that reason, and also crosswalks, the in the middle of the block. Those are sometimes very dark too, and I think that put special attention on those to as a safety issue for pedestrians when they cross the street. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. And this is one of the benefits of us acquiring our lights is that we will be able to control the lighting where there's a light fixture. Furthermore, if there's an area that we want to put a light fixture in, we would have that ability to put light fixtures where there's some missing. Right now, because we're in this transitionary phase, we can't add additional lights. We have to go through Pepco, and Pepco, because we're rethinking their lighting strategy to get a light, we have to make a we have to make a strong case to put up a light.
We're getting a comment online that the volume is too low, so I think we turned it down a little bit. We may need to turn it back up a little bit.
I'm sorry, James. That was me asking for it to be turned down because it was so loud in here. It started to break over the speakers.
Yeah, no, I heard that as well, but
Yeah.
it's
Council member.
Yeah, just to back to the point of engaging our delegation, I think we just need to make a very specific ask of them, like very specific, like these. This is exactly what we want you to do. Like we want you to draft this letter for us, or whatever it is. Like I think that's the best way to engage the help, but I'm sure that they will. So if as long as we're like really specific with them, that's what we need.
I agree. Okay, let's keep moving through this so that we can, for the individuals that are here, so
Oh.
they can.
All right. The next one is the indoor pool coating. This is just routine maintenance. We need to recoat the pool, the indoor pool, as we do with the outdoor pool. So we plan to put that in the budget for 2028. So in 2 years, um, we will have that expense. I've discussed the Buddy Attic Park Trail and amenities. That's the to execute the Buddy Attic Master Plan. And now on to the Armory development. That 10 million there. That's really primarily to do the remediation work. That's if you choose not to demo the Armory site. That we need to plan $10 million just to remediate that building. That's before we contemplate any use of the building, whether that's going to be a municipal building or, well, it has a limited use for the municipal building. It has no use for a fire station, that the physical structure. So it will have to be purpose for other things. The Cherrywood Lane Complete and Green Streets retrofit. That's $12.5 million. So that's down the medium. It's a medium category. I know that I occasionally get an email from at least one very active resident that would like to see that project done ASAP. $12 million is hard to come by. And so, but we're actively looking for funding for that. We actually are applying in a transportation program that's due either this week or next week. I don't know, Tim, if you remember off the top of your head which project that is. Or which grant?
Alternatives? Is that
It's
that
a
grant
it's
program?
when I take my screen off, I'll look it up because I just got an email this week from Jamie about it. Then we've got that Spring Hill Lake Center additions. There's that 2.5 million. That's what we initially were projecting the cost of that of making that addition. And with Tim, we were running some back of the envelope calculations. If we could get the Board of Public Works to change that $1.5 million award towards the um, the Spring Hill Lake, they just based on square footage construction cost, if we were to allocate $400 a square foot, how much of a facility we can build. And Tim, you came up with over 3,000 square feet. 3,000 square feet, it's a good sized multi-purpose room.
Yeah.
hmm and now for that project, we know we need meeting spaces. We need multi-purpose spaces, classroom spaces for that center. We could also use a podcast or media room in that space, a game room. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
Love that. That's very exciting.
It is. But this reminds me that, like many of our other projects, we need to get a concept plan that council can agree to, because we have a good plan that we can go out and sell and feel confident that if funded, we're going to be able to execute it. All right, then the citywide wayfinding. Council received the presentation a couple months ago on this project. The expected implementation cost is going to be around 300,000. We want to know where council. I know there's good feedback from council on these signs. I'm sorry, this wayfinding project. And so we need some directional council. Is this something that we should be moving forward with? And I think that's what we've got some citizens in the room, because they have ideas on a much broader integration of the wayfinding project, or maybe more specific to the center.
Very cool. So,
Mhm.
would someone like to speak on the aspirational plan? Hey, doesn't AFA have a hand in this, or they've been working to create some standards? Or we're coordinating with them. We are coordinating with them.
We have ATHA has funded the historic markers and maps at the lake and at the Roosevelt Center. I don't think, unless we're going to label the entire city a historic site, I don't know that it would fall within ATHA's funding guidelines for wayfinding throughout the city.
Cultural tourism. It's not just historic preservation. So, but please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, Council. I'm Dan Gelati. I live at 135A Northway. I'm actually here as General Manager of Greenbelt Co-op Supermarket at 121 Centerway. I think just kind of basically the merchants at Roosevelt Center, I think we frequently talk about the need for people to know that we exist. And people do not, frankly, know that we exist. It's a true fact. People don't even know we exist when they're upon the center sometimes. So since I've been here, we've been talking about it. I think for decades before I got here, people were talking about it. And it's really time for the city to do something to tell people that there's a thriving center with shops and people and activity going on in Roosevelt Center, not simply, kind of a wooden sign that suggests that we're like a museum set in stone with historic reenactors pretending to be stores and things. And any other thriving center would be treated like a destination that the city would want to send people to, and clearly delineate that it exists in such a way that you want to go and should go to that place. And I think the wayfinding is one part of that. I don't know that I'm not sure where that's going to land, like what it's going to all look like for sure, and whether there's more comment potentially with that. But like that wayfinding project is one important part that says there's a living, thriving community over here that you should be part of and participate in, whether you live here or work here or visit. We want you to know that it's here from our gateway at at Southway and at Keniston or that sort of thing at a minimum. And then I think potentially this could tie in with some work that the Greenbelt Business Alliance and Roosevelt Merchants are working on. We have a meeting on Friday. We're starting to talk about it. We got that facade grant, and theoretically facade grants could feather in with signage as well. And so if there was a two-part component to this where the big gateway signage says, hey, there's a center with actual living businesses here, that would be good. And then as you get closer, there's another set of signs that say, there's actually a center that has these businesses in it that you should frequent. And we think that that two-part component could be powerful for us from a marketing perspective that none of us can do individually. None of the individual Roosevelt merchants can do this. Only the city, I think, actually can. And so we want to just provide input or interest in you making sure that the wayfinding continues, that project moves forward. And we'd probably like some more feedback, but we'd like to be involved in that and have that happen as part of tonight, but also know that we think it can fold in to some other work that we're working on as a hand in glove kind of thing that would really invigorate Roosevelt Center, which it's much needed. Is that kind of okay? Good.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Okay.
Others, Dr. McGrath, Kim Cash, would you like to?
Hi, Council. I'm Kim Cash, 19 Woodland Way. I'm also one of the partners in ownership of the Granite Building, 115 Centerway. And I'm speaking also with my hat on from the Greenbelt Business Alliance. So the Business Alliance is super excited, obviously, about the facade grant. And we're excited that we can step up kind of for the first time as a convener of businesses, which I know is was one of our one of the reasons that we decided that we needed to exist, and that I think the city was encouraging us to exist. So this project, I think, is going to be the first time that we've been able to be of real service to the business community and also to the city of Greenbelt as a convener of ideas. So we're excited about it. We're going to be meeting on Friday for the first time. We've called the Roosevelt Center merchants all together, and hopefully we'll have a good crowd at the cinema, at the media lab on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. And we're aiming to discuss how all of us can work together, to create a unified front as Roosevelt Center merchants, and start to pull together our ideas about what kind of signage, what kinds of facade improvements, what kinds of things each individual business could use, and also what we can do collectively, just to make these dollars go further, to figure out maybe where other grants could come in, to figure out how the things that each of us needs maybe are, similar enough that we can come up with better solutions together. So we're very excited to be working together. And we're happy to be of service.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for all you're doing for Greenbelt businesses. For all of you, Mr. Hartman or Dr. McGrath, did you want to say anything?
We met in the lobby. Caitlin McGrath. I'm here representing the cinema at 129 and 125 Centerway, and we just to add on to, obviously I completely agree with support and echo everything that Dan and Kim have had to say, and I just wanted to put a little bit of a finer point on the experience that we've had at the cinema with applying for grants, especially for historic spaces. I think could be of use here, just to again further push those dollars, use the money that is already allocated and hopefully will be allocated to serve as a catalyst for specifically PGC HPC money. So the historic preservation money they have funds that would support work on windows and that kind of thing. So we could use that money, playing the matching game of state money to county money to city money, and that sort of thing to really, so we feel like there's a great opportunity here to really maximize the reach and the impact.
Dr. McGrath, So, the economy here in the DMV in general and state of Maryland. So, in seeking grant dollars over the past couple of years,
Mhm.
has it become more and more competitive, or more and more difficult, or funders kind of narrowing their focus more and more?
That's a big question. I think depends on the kind of project that you're going after and the kind of funding that you need. So obviously at the federal level with things like NEA and NEH, there was a scramble when that funding was cut. People looking to private foundations. I think for the work that we're talking about here specifically, there's still um, funding available, and those of us that have worked on these before having a track record so that they know us as entities that we're known good stewards. Again, we work with DHCD every year with the CITC, the tax credit program. So I think we're well positioned to take advantage and make the most of the funding that is out there.
Thank you so much, Council. Yeah, Mr. Hartman, please.
And Michael Hartman. I used to hang out with these guys, but I don't represent anyone at this point, um, except myself. Just a historical point. Many years ago, when Cap Capistan was alive, he wanted to bridge Beltway Plaza and Roosevelt Center and have a cooperative kind of a push for at Beltway Center to come visit Roosevelt Center and back again to Beltway Plaza. I would say that we also were thinking about Greenway Center, but we could never get hold of anyone over there. So, but it was something that goes with the wayfaring kind of a thing that to encourage um, people who don't know about the Roosevelt Center, or I guess a lot of people know about Beltway Plaza, but it was a way for Roosevelt Center to have some kind of a presence at Beltway Plaza to bring people over. And I don't know what could be done. It never really happened, but that was one of the things that he worked on for that. And I'm wondering if there's a way to um, revisit that with some ideas and stuff. I think that would help also Roosevelt Center folks, merchants, to have that, have people at White Plaza know that Roosevelt Center exists. So just a historical fact that we might want to revisit again.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, it's great to have that reminder, Michael. And Cap was so wonderful in supporting things that happen here in the center city of Greenbelt. And I think that I have two thoughts on that. One is that it requires people. So Cap was the person who would come to things and talked about his love of center city and would always be reading the news review. And but I think that that is continuing on in the management, the leadership there, that they still are interested and willing and supporting things. We have felt that at the cinema, and also in individuals like Shamar. So partnering with individual businesses to create that kind of connection, because we have been asked to advertise in Beltway Plaza and we just can't afford it. And it would, and basically we would get the advertising kiosk in front of the AMC, which feels a little odd. But I think that, I think the best thing we can do for that kind of connection is to work with people and to work with specific businesses. So I agree, yes. And then as far as visibility, that's one of the challenges, of course, that we all know, that we just logistically, I mean, the joke that I make is like, we're Brigadoon. Like, you don't know that we exist until you come down and you stumble upon this amazing place. And people, once they get here, they'll say, this is so great. It's so cute. I had no idea. It's wonderful. So it's about getting them to that place. And so I think one of our ideas or thoughts, and it actually came from Kristen Weaver, I believe, a while back, is to, because the issue is Beltway Plaza and Greenway Center have no visibility issues. If you were going anywhere on that route, you're going to go by, you're going to see their big gateway signage, you're going to see all the businesses that are listed there. So we're trying to get on some sort of a level playing field there. And so rather than having mention of us in some small fashion in a kiosk or something, Lita Mock's idea for many years, instead of doing that, have something akin to that gateway signage. And I think we're talking about the Armory. There's the possibility down the road to have something that would be more permanent. And in the meantime, it's possible that we could have something that's like there are some of the performing arts centers, I think, sort of in Rockville way, and then also headed out toward past NASA, like Lanham. There are some of the recreation centers that have really high quality vinyl signage that is, staked into the ground. There could be something like that as an intermediary of just announcing there's great stuff. If we own that property, why don't we use it to say, hey, before you spin off to go down the Parkway or the Beltway or whatever, like maybe explore, in our direction.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you. The city of Edmonston actually has a billboard on the extension to Route 1 alternate up there by the railroad tracks. You can't miss it once you go by. Yeah, and inside of Beltway Plaza, there's actually signage there that I've seen promoting "Come to College Park."
Oh, really? I
Have you
didn't
seen
see
that?
that. Haven't seen that.
Yes, I have noticed that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilman Fritz.
Wrong button again. There you go. So two thoughts, and thank you for everyone for coming out tonight. But I guess there's some I guess you could call it wayfinding on Greenbelt Road with the farmers market promotion banner, right? That's one way that we're trying to direct traffic, and I'm curious. I don't know the provenance of how long that's been there, and if it did have any measurable impact. Just would it make people? I think I see farmers market ads or signs for ours and other neighboring municipalities, farmers markets, and it's good to raise awareness for folks. But is there anything even anecdotally about if that did increase traffic to the farmers market? Did we think that was an effective intervention? And then for $300,000, I just would like what would that kind of get us? Roughly speaking, in terms of what could we get? How many signs is that talking, and to what quality and visibility from the street?
What does 300,000? The plan itemizes the locations of the signs and what those signs are. And so the 300,000 is made up of the quantity of the various signs that are recommended in the plan. So I'll make sure you have that plan.
Councilmember Niesel.
Oh, thank you. I did want to frame the entire conversation before we began because I was also wondering what that 300,000. So that was the phase 1 of the plan that was brought to us from the planning board or
Yes,
committee?
the APB
Yeah.
reviewed it, and we it was a grant partnership with the Park and Planning.
Okay. Thank you. And I really, really love the idea of the collaboration between all of the different entities. And I really want to make sure I'm hearing that there's so much energy around this. And I agree with Dr. McGrath that there is also great energy at Beltway Plaza. And granted, we are really concerned about the campus here in City Center because it doesn't have the visibility. However, I love the idea of planning a work session that got all of the entities together to make sure that when we do move forward, it's with a united tone, so it's not mishmash. I'm really, really excited that you guys are going to be meeting. I'm going to try and make it on Friday.
Okay. Okay.
Just as a historic context, just because I want to answer a little bit what you're saying about the farmers market, because I've been to a number of these meetings over the years about the signage, because I heard it a lot in RCMA, and people say, why can't we get a sign like the farmers market? And that, to my understanding, was a specific program from the Highway Administration for municipalities that had farmers markets. It was like a one-time deal. You cannot change signage, but we'll let you put a sign up if you have a farmers market. So it's not like we could then just slap something next to it that says, and also Roosevelt Center. So just, we tried. How do you get something on, like with the brown signs that say historically? There's just a lot of restrictions at the state level with highways.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It was a struggle to get those brown signs. There's one on Kenilworth also saying historic Greenbelt, I guess. Now, if you go down Kenilworth, though, during farmers market season, there's a sign there for the College Park farmers market. Only somehow they actually carry out the date and the time is like it's augmented. Someone goes out there and correct me if I'm wrong. With the farmers market, at one point, didn't wasn't someone going out there with a sandwich sign and sort of wasn't there? Didn't someone carry a sign out there to the street? Maybe not. I don't know, but we do need to move on. We've got a fair amount to cover, and bottom line, I just want to get council's sense of the top two or three uh, that we feel like need to really be prioritized short term. So, Mr. Summerlin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll add a little more context to Friday's meeting. I'm particularly interested in moving forward rather expeditiously on the facade improvement grant because that's an annual program. So we want to get that money out as soon as possible, show some success, so that we can continue to apply for that grant and bring more money to our city. All right, I left off on the citywide wayfinding. The next two items are the traffic calming interventions. Thank you, thank you. The council has reviewed and accepted the traffic calming plan, and so that plan had two areas of improvement, short term improvements. Those are estimated to cost around 530,000, and the long term improvements at 2.1 million. Then we've got the Greenbelt East Trail segment one that's at $3.6 million. The Hanover Parkway South, sidewalk gap is expected to cost 283,000. Then we got the Turner Place Crescent Bike Path, 50,000. Ridge Road Sharrows, 40,000. The pool packs, these are pumps for the pool that's expected to cost 2.5 million. Yes, there's a several $1 million worth of projects still remaining at the pool. But this is in the medium category, so we're looking at the next 4 to 7 years. The other thing that the Aquatic and Fitness Center will need are HVAC work. One is the duct work, the stainless steel. That's 2.5 million. The HVAC system at the front desk and hallways. That's 75,000. The youth center, the multi-purpose HVAC system, 3 million. Playground improvements, these are a variety of playgrounds that we know we need to replace, three of which we presented to council in the past because we were seeking bond bill money and support from council for these projects. We've also submitted grants for various playgrounds to the playgrounds grant projects both at the county and state, and we have not been able to secure those funds. In total, all those playground improvements are estimated at $4.75 million. Then we got some work at the municipal building. Those are window storefront replacements. The roof replacement, this is long term. We're monitoring this one. As you know, we had that re-roof project that we put on. It was low over $30,000. Um, we're hoping that holds for up to 10 years, but we know that down the road we'll need to have a full roof replacement. That is, of course, unless council decides to give us a new municipal building here. You knew
I
where
know
I
I'm
was
doing that.
Check my pockets.
Check-
I won
Extra
$15 at the
change.
lottery,
check-
so I can add that to the
check
pot.
the cushions. Then we have some smaller projects at the police station, the access controls, duct work. Then we've got the Greenbelt Lake water quality improvements. There's two actual projects at the lake. The one is the quality improvement and the dredging of Greenbelt Lake at $6 million. That's on the low list. It hasn't been a problem, but every lake at some point needs to be dredged. And I don't know when ours was dredged last, but it's it's been a long time. I'm sure we have records of it, but it's on the list. It's something that we would need to.
I was wondering about that. We did have the four bays dredged, and that was through the Clean Water Partnership Program. And they made a commitment to kind of maintain those four bays for 30 years as a part of that program. And it's been about 7 or 8 or 9 years now. 7 years. It's been a little while. So can we, if it's I guess that's a medium to a low priority, but we should be talking with them a little bit and reminding them that so many wonderful projects happened in Greenbelt and continue to have an impact on our water quality and mitigating the impacts of stormwater runoff throughout the city. So we need to talk with them just to kind of remind them.
We met with them recently to talk about the four bays and one of the projects that's on the list, and that is uh, the culverts feeding into the lake. It's further down on the unprogrammed list. That's the Greenbelt Lake inlet pipes near Lake Crest. I actually was part of the inspection, so I got into the pipe myself, um, and I have got pictures, really nice pictures of what the inside the piping is in good condition, but there's been some soil erosion around the pipe, and that's led to the separation of the pipe, and that's causing the soil erosion um, of that inlet. But so we met with the Clean Water Partnership to discuss the inlets and the four bays. The lake, the dredging of the lake is not part of their work, but the four bays will be, and they're committed to working with us on the four bays. The inlets would not be something that they could fund. So we have to secure that funding separately. We don't have a price tag on that project yet because we're getting estimates from engineers what it's going to cost to make that repair. But we have been in communication with the Clean Water Partnership about it, and we're looking at other clean water projects in the city. We asked about the the storm drainage system along Crescent that feeds into the lake from the north side. If you've walked by it recently, you'll see that the concrete has separated. So eventually, we need to make some repairs to that system.
If we were going to do something there, wouldn't one of the alternatives be unchanneling it? So instead of having the concrete funneling the water down, instead you would want to just have the water come down and soak into the ground as opposed to being drained down.
Yeah, I don't. We'll have to have an engineer look at that. I think the easiest thing is to just redo the concrete and have that water channeled into the lake because the lake serves that stormwater retention purpose. I get what you're saying about the retention of water and more in its local environment. I'll we'll have to speak with the engineers about the feasibility of that.
Okay, Mr. Hartman, did you have a comment? Please.
I've stood several times at this podium asking about the sidewalks, especially along Crescent Road. They are not contiguous, they're not there. And I don't see any indication of future planning or future desire or future anything in this a list like this. And I think it's really critical that we look forward to that because right now you can't walk along Crescent Road, and it is the best way to get to various places, obviously, or but it poses a danger for people. It is an inconvenience, especially for people with disabilities, to be able to go there. And the inner pathways just don't work um, because they're windy and so I really would love to see for an unfunded capital project is the creation of a contiguous uh, uh, sidewalk from Roosevelt Center to Kenilworth, and I think that's really important for a number of reasons. Um, the other thing is, are you going to go through this list here that was in the packet? Because I have a comment about the bus stops too.
We're going to kind of cover that. Yes.
I have a comment about bus stops when that
Thank you.
comes up. Thank you.
You know, with that pathway sidewalk on Crescent, you know, GHI is really so integral to that conversation. We have to kind of get their input.
Sorry, which path?
Putting a sidewalk on Crescent Road.
You know, I see the gaps that you're talking about, Mr. Hartman. We're going to have major challenges securing easements and right of way on the GHI property. Most recently, we explored the option or what council had. I'm sorry, let me take a step back. When we had the conversation about rerouting the bus, um, down Crescent to turn left on Westway, right? One of the questions that came up from council and the public were, well, we need a sidewalk there. There's people using the Westway as a pedestrian, and there's no sidewalk. And also, I discussed it with our team, particularly the planning and community development, and just the cost of the engineering and acquisition of right of way will cost a lot more money than actually building the sidewalk. And the work that will be entailed there will be, we're talking about eliminating parking, which council has been supportive on some but not others, of removing parking spaces along GHI properties. So it would mean eliminating parking, acquiring uh, easements and land on GHI to build a sidewalk. And then we had to find places to connect to, because where it may seem reasonable to put in a sidewalk, it doesn't have an entry point and a connection point on the other side. So that would be a lot of the case that you're mentioning, Mr. Hartman, the sections that are missing along Crescent Road. So once you leave the bus stop at Garden Way, it goes into the neighborhood. And I think what you're talking about is connecting, following parallel to Crescent to connect all the way to Kenilworth. And there's a lot of missing spaces on Crescent. Well, to put a sidewalk on Crescent Road, that would be a lot more engineering, and already as it is, to put a 4-foot bike lane on Crescent is challenged with the limited space there. So adding a pedestrian, even if we were to, we don't, I don't see a space unless we consolidated the path to just one side and having it be a multimodal path, that you need 10 feet for a multimodal path. So I don't think that we could get it on the road. We would have to expand the road, and yeah, that's a
Very
lot more
challenging.
involved.
Very challenging.
But we're open
But
to it. Obviously, we don't.
yeah, and your point's well taken. It's been discussed, and we'll continue to look at the feasibility. But the reason why you have so many facts on the tip of your tongue is we've just gone through the exercise of repaving and painting lines. So that's why it's so fresh in your mind.
I like to think that I retain the information for a while. But yes, Mr. Mayor, we recently just had inquiries about and complaints that the the resurfacing and road markings on Crescent were into code. And we did a full reassessment of it, and there was one area that we were below the design standards, and so we had to backfill some of the asphalt and make some improvements to ensure that we were meeting the design guidelines of having 4 feet on both sides.
Okay. Hey,
Sorry, the 4 feet is the bike
yeah,
lane. I'm sorry, we're
bike lane.
specifically talking about the bike lanes.
I do want to kind of pause in just a minute and get council's just thoughts about 3 or 4 of the priorities, things that really need to be moved up, or what's most essential. Mayor Pro Tem, can you hold on for a second? Or do you want to go?
May I add one more thing? So I did not mention the ongoing commitment that we have from council and the administration to fund 1 million in road resurfacing work and the 150,000 for sidewalk repairs and improvements. So that's something that we budget for every year. It comes out of our budget. It's technically not funded until council approves, but that is something that we are adamant that we need to keep up with, because I think one of the things that we are proud of in the city is that among our peers, we have less potholes than other folks have, and that comes at an expense. So keeping up with that road resurfacing and sidewalk improvements are important. Um,
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the CARES expansion into Greenbelt West, because we were also talking about some of the things, the idea of potentially the expansion of Spring Hill Lake Rec Center. This is as a separate item. Were you thinking of this? And I know we have talked about like the idea of some of the space that might be in Franklin Park and sort of things, but this seems like a higher price tag than we would need to rent a space that's existing, but not enough to build a whole new building. And I wonder if what you were thinking of, or what staff was thinking of with that 828,000, and if there is a place to fit some of that into the idea of an expansion of Spring Hill Lake Rec Center.
Yes, and I'll let Tim weigh in on that. We did look at the former CCI space, and we got a quote back. I think it's $23 a square foot to lease that space. But yes, that's the 830. I'll let you get into the details, Tim.
Yeah, so the it's 12,000 square feet at 23 a foot. The assumption is the minimum you would get would be a 3-year lease, which is
Okay.
which is why it's 828.
Okay. So that makes more sense.
So it
'cause
really
it's a
would be
3-year lease.
276 for each of 3 years. But I want to kind of show the complete picture of the commitment that we'd be signing up for.
That's just
Now
space.
and also with that said, Liz did get an email back from Lori with Franklin Park that said at some level that number is negotiable. So we don't know how it is if we got serious about it. You know, it could be 20, it could be 19, 18. So that number could drop a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, so we've just gone through this long list of unfunded capital projects, and obviously some of these items can't really be deferred without increasing risk or cost. So somehow we need to kind of briefly, council members would like to talk about 2 or 3 of their priorities, the priorities as they see them in this list, because we haven't done this in a few years, and it's just important to inform so that staff has a good sense of what council, what the public's opinion is of these unfunded large unfunded capital projects. I mean, obviously, some of them, the youth center roof. It's great that we got some funding for that. That's fantastic. But key building systems like HVAC and elevators. The elevators and the other elevator in the community center and the one here in the municipal building are very, very important, as well as the one in the police department. That bridge work has to be done. I don't really have a sense of how time sensitive that is. The bridge work.
I have a report from the inspection. We don't see the immediate threat. You know, there's some things like I walked um there walked across it, and there's like rust on the fence. And like, well, it's not shaking, and unless somebody hits it, you don't know how stable it is. So, God, I shouldn't have said that.
I'll call you tomorrow.
So we received the report from the inspection, said, hey, you got to take care of these things, and it's not imminent. The improvements we're talking about, Mayor, it's not the surface integrity of the bridge, right? The bridge can hold all that traffic weight. We're talking about the walls along the bridge that need work.
Right.
So
I was
yes,
just asking, is there some mandate that we got to do this year or next year?
the inspection said you got to take care of these things, but it was not indicative of saying you got to take care of this ASAP. Like we didn't get an F or a citation or something for having the bridge and poor quality. But I think that that's one of the concerns about bridge inspections throughout the country, is that you get things pointed out and they said, oh well, these things need to be addressed. You don't know how severe they are until sometimes it's too late. But what I know from our bridge is that when we talk about issues that need to be addressed, is not the structure that's supporting the vehicle traffic and the load. We're talking about the fencing and the guardrails.
And the same question about HVAC systems. We've got the chillers, and a number of items are addressed in the short term that are actually programmed.
Yeah.
But you've got HVAC systems listed here as unprogrammed.
Well, some of the
What's
HVAC
the
systems.
urgency on this?
Well, we went through the urgency of that table. The other HVAC systems that we've listed in what you just referenced, that table that's color coded there, that work is already programmed. So if you're looking at the community center, the 2 boiler units, well, that's done. We've replaced the boiler units. That's the system that's heating the building now. The chillers have arrived. They arrived, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So the chillers have arrived. Now we got to get into the scheduling of it. That means getting the staff out of the ground floor east out of there. It looks like we need to do some demoing to get the chillers, the old ones out and get the new ones in. So those are HVAC systems that you have already approved. We have the funding. We've got contracts, so they are going to be on that table, and there's a corresponding expense to it because that's already ongoing.
I guess what I was asking about is the youth center boiler replacement and the structural remediation. Those are the cracks in the community center.
Correct.
And the HVAC system in here in this building.
So we made a best estimate. Well, some of these we know that they're critical, and the priority areas of being high, medium, and low correspond to a timeline. So anything in that high category, we're looking at it needing to replace it in 1 to 3 years. The medium is 4 to 7 years. Low is 7 years and later. Mhm.
So why aren't these projects programmed in on a 7-year schedule?
Well, when one is just sheer volume. I mean,
Money.
we don't have the money, so we don't want to put a lot of things on there that we know we just can't fund, right? Like the Armory site, it's $1 million. We don't know where council is on this. You have not taken a position on whether you want to keep that building or demo that building. So we can't put $1 million of capital project in there until you tell us what you want to do. Now that's one of the newer projects, right? We acquired the Armory a year ago. We completed $150,000 concept plan, and you know, council we need council to get enthusiastic behind one of those plans, or
Fortunately, I think it may be a combination of those plans. Councilmember Pompey, did you have your hand up a moment ago?
I did.
Please go ahead.
And just thinking about what are priorities here, for me, when I look at this, one thing that stands out is the Greenbelt Station Trail, which I know is $1 million, but that is just, it's been put off for so long. It was promised so long ago. We finally have some momentum on it. I just want to see it to the finish line. I would love to see that get to the finish line. And I would love to see the museum get to the finish line. That's another thing that I think we have been waiting so long, especially if that grant funding is going to expire. That would crush my soul to think that we were losing grant funding because we couldn't get that done. Um, and then, so those are the two things that really stood out to me. And I know we put in a bond request for this, but I think the lights at Schramm Hills field would be incredible if we could get those lights. I think that would just really increase use of that space and really sort of be transformational over there in that community. So those are sort of the things that are high on my list. Oh, and then the indoor pool coating. That pool gets so much use by so many members of this community. I mean, that's just, people use it for recreation. The swim team use it. People use it for therapy. People use it for exercise. So I just want to make sure we're maintaining that to the standards that we need, especially we just spent all of this money to fix the pool deck. So I think it's important that we continue to maintain that. And then also like the street lights, if we could make that happen, that'd be great to not have to keep talking about the street lights. So anyway, those are just the things that were at the top of my mind.
Yeah, Ms. Pope.
How about the Greenbelt East Trail, segment 1? Is this these 3.6 million? Is there some money coming in, or what are we planning on?
Well, so the Friends of the Greenbelt East Trail, I think with the partnership with the city, and also was it with ATHA as well? Yeah, put in for, I believe it was an EPA grant. So there have been some feasibility studies done along there. I think there was some progress being made along there. I think the EPA grant just died after. Yeah. So, and I think the challenge with that one is that a lot of that is not currently within Greenbelt's borders, although that will actually change soon. So I think there has not been as much activity on that because I'm on the email list that Jeff Lemieux has. There has not been as much activity on that, but unfortunately, there may still be a little bit happening with the feasibility studies, but the hope to get some of the money to start that, those grants are not being awarded anymore, I don't think.
Okay, it's just been on the list for a long time. So, and I'm,
Minded it's been on the list for a long
but
time.
I just want ask. There was another one.
Hi, Councilmember Pompey. I am with you on the Greenbelt Station Trail. There's a lot of money that is at risk, and the residents. So many of the residents there had high hopes. They were actually promised that this connection was gonna happen. And at this point, I just feel like we need to go ahead and get this done.
Yeah, and I hope council and the public is aware of the constraints here. It's not that I'm holding this up. This has been going on for I don't know 10 years. Up until last year, WMATA didn't want to move forward with this because we had the FBI building and all this, and really what got us getting momentum again is the fact that the time was expiring on these grants and the issues with the FBI. We got it, and now it's we don't have it or it's on hold, and we can't keep operating in this space. So we've gotten a WMATA to commit to this, and now that we also acquired all that acreage between the Greenbelt Station and WMATA, we own that land now. We purchased that last year, so now we're able to we've done things to move this project forward. So yeah, we've continued to work on it. There's just been a lot of barriers to to get to even where we are now, a lot of hurdles.
Well, if we can just keep going forward, that's why I feel like we've got momentum. I don't want to stop.
We need to get it done.
Like keep the train running.
We need to get it done. Same thing with the museum project. Although I think there's more groundwork that's already been done, we need to not lose that and find a way to move forward and use the bond money that we've received for that. We've heard about the wayfinding signage, and it's good that we've got the business community in Roosevelt Center working with the facade grants and also kind of conceptualizing what they would like to see. But citywide wayfinding is something that's near and dear to my heart. I think that we need that partially just so that people appreciate people driving through, and also people who live here know that they are in Greenbelt. And unfortunately, there are some places in town that may not feel that way. Pepco Light acquisition, Buddy Attic master plan, being able to kind of move ahead with some of those things. Those are a few priorities. But I want to make sure other council members have an opportunity to speak. Amy, please.
I'm in absolute agreement that the Greenbelt Station Trail needs to be completed, especially if we have $3 million in grants. It's really scary to put that amount of money towards something, but it is something that the residents were promised when they moved in. It feels really, really counterintuitive to have it called Greenbelt Station when it doesn't connect to the Greenbelt Metro Station. And then I also, because I think we do have this moment where we can really focus on economic development, if we are doing improvements such as finishing the Greenbelt Station Trail, and we now have that like additional accessibility feature that we can lean on, it would be a great opportunity to improve economic development. And so I do think that this would be a really, really great opportunity for the wayfinding to at least start. I'm not sure about funding the full amount, but it's really important to me that we at least take a step in that direction away from our quaint wooden signs.
We just have a meeting. We just had a meeting recently about the wayfinding, right? About the signage.
Yes, that's what the $300,000 references. Is the information from that meeting. So those would be my two priorities: the wayfinding and the Greenbelt Station Trail.
Other thoughts? Councilman Fritz. Councilmember Fritz.
Yeah, thank you. The conversation's been very helpful. I do think making sure that roughly there's some geographic parity in what we're looking at. I do think to Councilmember Pompey's points, finishing the Shrum Hill uh, lights, especially since we're seeking state. I believe that was a state bond issue, and then wayfinding I think is also important. Getting that started, and the Greenbelt Station Trail. I think those are the three things that are kind of rising to the top for me of things that I think are both timely, but also I think really important investments for the whole city across east, west, and center.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything that anybody has said, but that's still a pretty long list. It's maybe shorter than it was before, but it's still a pretty long list. I think I think if we have the opportunity to do something with Spring Hill Lake Rec Center, because we already got some money, and to that 250,000, and if we can talk to, I love the idea of trying. I mean, we were asking for a youth center roof. Here's another youth center. Let's see if we can get the county to shift that money so that we could actually do something seriously and give us some more space over there. I think I think that would be great, and I appreciate Councilmember Fritz's comment about the it's good to have this distribution of resources across all parts of the city as much as possible. So that would be helpful. But and some of those are things that at least we have a little bit of money for. I definitely agree that if we've got grants that are going to go away, we need to try to, like, if we're going to lose money, we need to pursue those projects. The other thing that I would comment on is I think I know I've talked to Josue about this, to Mr. Salmeron about this, but I had a really interesting conversation I can't remember if it was NLC in the fall or MML last summer, to be honest, but it might have been MML actually. But a company that does sort of like flash, I think it's called Flash Vote. They do sort of quick surveys of people via text message, but they have an infrastructure and help design these surveys to get like quick feedback on very focused topics. So it's sort of like our survey focused questions, but done multiple times in the year. And there is, of course, a cost to it because they're selling a service. But I think this is exactly, and coincidentally, I had talked to them before, and then the guy actually called me this afternoon. But I think the idea of being able to, we have this long list of priorities. Staff has done some prioritization. I'm not sure that we as council tonight have necessarily narrowed it down that much more, but I think this could be a way to think about how do we get good broad-based public feedback. And they do it through text surveys, but there's also a way people sign up to be like in a bank for these surveys that for the city. They can do some statistical things to make sure it's statistically representative. They have ways that people can also call in to participate in the survey. So it's not just, you don't have to have a smartphone. But I think when we have these challenging things and so many things that we think are good ideas, how can we get more feedback than just, our three wonderful business members and Mr. Hartman and Mr. Orleans in the room? How do we get more public feedback? And so I'd like to also think about not just what we as council think and not just what we have gotten from our impressions from the people, but really what are some concerted ways that we can ask people to prioritize maybe the top 5 or 6, but do it in a way that gets more representation in terms of the impressions. And I can pass along the information. And again, of course, they're not doing this for free, but maybe there's a way we can piggyback on some of the text message things we're starting to do now and do a little bit of that ourselves.
Well, thank you, Council. So, I appreciate your comments about trying to tie the city together with by funding balanced funding for different projects, and it hurts my heart a little bit to see the Cherrywood Lane Green Street project sort of sitting. It's been queued up for a long time, and likewise with the Hanover Parkway shared path. I believe one of our residents pointed out that there really have not been any accommodations for cyclists along Hanover Parkway.
We have a bikeway. We have a grant for that.
Well, we do, but there's additional work that's beyond the bikeway that's on here. So I'm just saying that visibly, for some people, when they ride their bike on Hanover Parkway, they don't see any sharrows or anything, basically.
Well, the Greenville East has that dedicated bike lane from the in the park, and that's one of the lists we were able to check off this year was completing that. Right there was gravel. Now there's pavement there.
By the stormwater pond.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm. Connecting back to Schramm Hill.
Okay.
And
so-
we spent over $1 million on that new competition grade field that you guys got to see some of my soccer skills on.
Well, I guess we saw. I don't know what I saw exactly. Mr. Hartman has a comment. Any other comments from council before we talk about the fleet replacement? I'm sorry, Councilmember Fritz, please.
Yeah, to just kind of lift up what Council or Mayor Pro Tem Weaver was saying, I do think that not in the timeline of this year, but I think over a medium or long-term horizon, I think moving towards a more participatory capital budgeting process is really important. A lot of there's different degrees of autonomy that jurisdictions have given to participatory budgeting projects, and they tend to be very popular when you actually give people a direct say over how this money is being spent. And oftentimes they start as pilots with small pots of money, and then have neighbors come together and kind of co-create a budget, and compromise on what priorities they want funded, and kind of come to a rough consensus on how they want to spend money. Those projects have been implemented in New York City on a small scale, and in a lot of jurisdictions in Latin America. So it's something I think about a lot. I don't think I have a short-term answer, but there are a lot of models to look at of how we bring people into the process of designing these capital investments.
And I would say that both Ron, Mr. Covington, the treasurer, and myself are interested in doing participatory budget. One of the challenge we have is that we meet with you Monday and Wednesday every week. And so what evening are we able to squeeze in another meeting with the public? And if the schedule that was approved by council just 2 weeks ago has us booked all the way through June, well past the date that we submit our budget to council and the council work session. One could argue that council's intent of having so many work sessions is so that the public has a seat at the table.
Right. And I think that was part of the, when we, of so many dates, to give the public plenty opportunity to come and join in and in any way possible, and post everything online as well. So they can go through the budget page by page if they would wish to do so. So yeah, as any other dates, I don't know, we're going to be meeting every day.
Okay. Mr. Hartman, you had a comment?
A couple of things. One, I'm glad you're going forward, hopefully, with the Greenbelt Station Trail, and I was very gladdened that accessibility was a part of that discussion for people with mobility challenges. Don't suppose you'd have a moving sidewalk like they have at the airport?
Oh my
No?
gosh.
Oh, well,
$5 to $10 million.
at least, yeah. No.
We're going to go do that throughout Greenbelt.
We could find a way to use the squirrels to sort of power the
Yeah.
thing. That would save a lot of money.
Anyway, back to reality. Concerning bus stops, I know that we have talked about bus stops a lot, and the council has made some changes in some of the bus stops to allow for people with disabilities to be under the if there's a shelter for people who use wheelchairs. But when you're doing, I've seen a lot of bus stops and there's no bench or not even a concrete slab that people can stand on at the bus stop. And I think that at the very minimum, it would be important to have a concrete slab that is level with the surrounding area, so there's no step or anything to it. And with that in mind, when you're creating bus stops, it's really important not only the bus stop itself, But the way a person navigates to that bus stop is very important, so that you're not dealing with just that, the place where you stand or sit, but how does a person get to that from a sidewalk, an existing sidewalk, um, without too much inconvenience. So I think that should be part of the planning as well when you're looking at the bus stop improvements that you have listed here. But yeah, whatever it is. Sorry.
And some of the
Yep.
funding for that,
Yeah, there's
the planning
90,000.
department has the bus stop replacement schedule sort of built into this budget
Yeah.
going out a number of years. So there's $30,000 each year for improvements to bus stops, and I'm blanking on the number. I think it's was it three or four bus stops each year?
I will have to speak with Terry about those numbers. But yeah, so you're referencing the sheet that's right in front of you is the color coded one. That's item bus shelter and accessibility work that has 30,000 spread out starting 2027, uh, 28, 29. So that's we pushed that money. As you know, the 2026 budget cycle was tough. Uh, and we were using ARPA money. We had a lot of projects that were still underway under the ARPA funding, so we took the 30,000 off the capital budget in 2026 because we had all these ARPA projects. But the intention is to put them back in the budget in 2027 and onward, and it's $30,000 and whatever $30,000 gets us. Now, Mr. Hartman, you made a good point that, and I hope that you've seen the improvements that we made with the ARPA funding, and that's to create that concrete pad so that we could make our bus stops ADA accessible. But that's only a fraction of the work that needs to be done. There are areas,
Exactly.
there's areas of work. I think just a couple months ago, we brought to council the need to eliminate some parking spaces so that we could have the buses be able to pull in because the concrete pad is only as good as the bus being able to land
Right.
on it.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of areas that we've installed the concrete pads for the bus to do that, but there's parking right in front of the bus stop
Yes.
that prohibits the bus from pulling in. So I think to achieve that goal of ADA accessibility for bus stops, we have to eliminate a lot more parking.
Well, the reason I brought it up was because I know you are doing that. You're looking at those things, and I just wanted to put that thought forward that is part of that discussion of looking at the navigation to the bus stop itself and how the bus gets there, how people get there, and where they are when they are there, if they could sit down if possible. That would be a very minimum thing of just putting a bench there. And then enough room on the concrete slab that also a person who uses a wheelchair could also be on the concrete slab and not have to be on grass or whatever. So thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. So we're running out of time, but looking at this, the other chart that you have for council's benefit, this is like the plan going from 2026 through 2029, and so you can see we're in FY 2026 right now in the green, and you can see how these funded and programmed capital projects are listed and how the funding is spread out and projected over a number of years. Just for council's benefit, you've got a column CP, which is capital project versus BCR. What's the BCR?
Building capital
Okay,
reserve.
that refers to the funding mechanism. So, council, you've looked over this information. Mr. Samaron, was there anything that you'd like to, salient points you'd like to bring out just in terms of modifications or thinking and how some of these projects are funded in out years? Anybody have any questions or thoughts about?
Well, I appreciate your support, Mr. Mayor and council, and I also hope that you will go out and shake some trees for us.
Well, yeah, that's
A lot of tree shaking ourselves. Don't we're pursuing every dollar we can. But, it's teamwork.
yeah, and on the unprogrammed funding list, there's a column with an X in it, and those are specifically where we do need to shake some trees, right?
Yes, and make some decisions about some of those programs. We've got the McDonald field lights. We haven't really talked about those fields. We've got the the new city office building that's in the program. We spent so much effort in looking at new office space. We spent over $100,000 just looking at a concept of space for this building. We spent money on looking at a space study for the ground floor east and whatnot. And I think we're abandoning some of those projects. And so as we think of these new other projects, I want to be very mindful of how we explore them because limited funds. We have limited funds.
Very much so. So, this exercise of the work session today was to kind of bring council up to speed, just thinking and looking about these different projects before we actually get into the budget and having a chance to kind of talk and make suggestions, prioritize a bit. And it's important, and we haven't done this. So, yeah. One item that we do need to talk about a bit, and I noticed that Chief Bowers is on the line, has to do with the fleet vehicles. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I was just going to say, do we talked about a lot of things and we said a lot of things. Oh, we like that one. We like that one. Do we need to have a process for a more actual prioritization of this? I mean, I'm just wondering if whether it's council plus getting public feedback, but maybe taking at the very least the high priority ones that staff has identified and actually having us rank them and say first, second, third, and then compiling that. Do we need to actually try to get to because I don't think we've really come down to a true priority. Now, some of it is based on what we can get money for, because obviously it does make it a higher priority if it's projects that we've already gotten money for and we just need a little bit more. But is that something you feel like we need to do?
Yes, to some extent, there are some things that we just have to work towards, right? Like the elevators, there's nothing exciting about spending almost $1 million on 3 elevators, but these are essential. We may not want to focus on that, but we just can't afford not to, right? Um, Especially the second elevator, the community center, that's just something that we have to actively work towards. Uh, Same with the municipal building, right? It gets some use, but if we are out without an elevator here, we're gonna have to move this council meeting because we need to ensure accessibility to the council meetings. I know that there's one community near us that all of their council meetings are virtual, and the public just cannot attend physically. I don't think that we are that kind of community. I think if this elevator goes down, we will have to move somewhere else. So it's incumbent upon me to find a solution to replace that elevator, and that's a lot of the high priority projects, with the exception of the Armory site. Right, the Armory site. I need to hear from council. I think we are aware of the risk that it poses for us. It's a vacant building. Um, the other improvements we know we need to do something because there's a strong desire from the community to address them, but there also we as an administration are committed to that work. The cemetery master plan, right? That's something that we hear from the reparations commissions and other folks who care about our cemeteries, that they see that as an essential area of work for us.
Got the grant for that, too.
Well, but we got the grant for that because we heard from the citizens that they say, "Hey, we need something. We need to take better care of our cemeteries." So we needed a plan because what does taking better care of our cemeteries look like? So we applied for the grant. We got the master plan. We've got the recommendation. Now we need to keep going on the next step.
So, Mayor Pro Tem, yes, I can do that. I think we could do that. But I personally, I felt it was important for all of council to kind of hear this discussion so that they would have a better sense of exactly what these projects entail. Otherwise, how would they know?
Well, no, and I think it was a good discussion. It's just, do we need to take it further? Because we don't actually have a prioritization in terms of these are the top 3, these are the next 3, these are the next 3. We have a list of 10 and we have people saying, oh yeah, that seems like a good idea, but we don't actually have a true prioritization of these.
The real question, I think, is whether or not staff has enough guidance from listening to the conversation to move forward, or if you had a list, would that really reflect realistically what could be accomplished, the utilization of having this prioritized by council without quite so much public input.
So this is our list. we're presenting our list. We've shared the concerns that we have. We're going to move forward with a lot of things on this list, because that's our jobs, right? The elevators, that's our jobs. The grants that are that we are at risk of losing, that's we're not going to jeopardize the funding, right? We're going to move forward with it. So we are presenting our list to you.
So what we could do is we could actually homework, take this list of the unprogrammed ones and rank them one, two, three, and that's what I was trying to get at because we don't necessarily agree on maybe there are a few medium priorities that council actually feels are high priorities, and likewise maybe there are a couple of high priorities on the list that maybe just based on our interactions with the public don't quite make it that high. Just on in order, Miss Pope, Councilmember
Yeah, and I
Fritz,
agree with
Councilmember
Mayor Pro
Weasel.
Tem. I mean, I think we need to prioritize a little bit more. So I know you're presenting your list, and for some of it we have funding. Um, but what's the top five? Like, and what is it we can get um, actually done in the next 2 years? That so the first top five, can we be successful in that, and then go from there? And maybe there's a little bit of, if we have the top five, maybe then there's a little bit of room for one or two others that maybe not on this priority list, but we could fit in and we can get accomplished, if that makes sense.
And I'll tell you my top fives: the roof center, the boiler, the youth center roof, the youth center boiler, the community second elevator, the uh, the bridge improvements. That's on a 1 to 3 year timeline. I've got four, and the streetlights. That's my five.
Okay, and how much, say, some of these are not fully funded. We still going to have to reach in our pockets, right? So um, can you tell us how much we have to, um, what would be our financial part, a burden on these?
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this conversation perhaps the most challenging. And this is where I was sharing my concern with the mayor when he wanted to have this conversation. Is as I'd say, okay, how do we fund this? Because we don't have this cash sitting around. Staff is working really hard securing grant money, and you just saw the some of the outcome of that. We secured $1.8 million today. So we're out there shaking trees and looking for the funding wherever we can. There are some of these projects, it's just going to be very difficult to fund. The demolition of the armory site's a good example of that. There isn't a whole lot of money out there, certainly not $1 million to go out and demolish buildings. But we know that that's something that eventually we need to do. How are we going to fund that? Council, we just don't have the cash reserves there. So you could tell me that that is a priority. We'll work it onto a schedule, but we need to find the funding. Now, in one conversation, the mayor suggested that why don't we borrow it? Why don't we do a bond? And like that sounds great, but if you look at our unfunded liabilities table, we just don't have a whole lot of room to borrow more money there. We look at our debt liability. We're paying for unfunded retirement liability that we took on, and we'll be paying for that for years to come. We have the TIF that's another 30 years out. We have the Greenbelt Lake Dam that's still another year. We are looking at 4 years before we get breathing room to borrow more money. So it's a good idea. Go out there and borrow it now because money is going to be cheaper now than it is into the future, right? Just due to the rising cost of inflation.
Toss that out there as a possibility, not as a suggestion. Let's go borrow the money. I didn't say that.
No, but we were talking about it because I asked you like, okay, how are we going to pay for it? You said, well, can we borrow money? So there's that possibility. We just don't have a lot of room to borrow money. And I'm also, I think I think you've seen our approaches to budgeting and managing our finances. We want to be conservative, right?
And we
don't
have
wanna-
to be
Yeah,
conservative. Yes.
right. Because there were years where the city of Greenbelt did not have money to pay cost of living. There were many years that staff did not get cost of living, did not get merit increases. I made a commitment.
Yeah, but
Well,
still,
there were years that were not recession years,
right,
and we
right.
still couldn't pay it. Now I made a commitment to the staff that we're going to pay fair wages and we're going to keep up with the cost of living and pay market wages. I commit to that, my team. And one of the things that you saw in the last 2 budget cycles is that we were willing to make staff reductions so that we could afford that cost of living merit increases. So I think to your question, Ms. Pope, that's one of the challenges. Like, yes, we could be all committed to this, but there's just where's the money? We're actively working on getting funding, and we're going to move forward project as money allows. As Mayor Pro Tem Weaver says, that some of this prioritization is driven by what do we have money for and what can we get money
Right.
for.
And I agree with that. But I think we need to really have a clear plan and share that with the public as well. Because of course everyone has their wishes, right? And everybody has their priorities, and everybody has a, well, this is important to me, or the the grave sites and etc. And maybe the splash park for me, right? I saw it. I'm not even not gonna say it. It's okay. I got it. But so, and I think we have to be very clear and very, very clear with our budget needs and how much this is going to cost the city and as well, eventually our taxpayers, because that's how we're paying for these things, right? Um, and I think we just have to be very transparent and honest, and say and lay it out, and these are the priorities. We need to have a roof, we need to have elevator, we need to have that. This is something we must have, and whatever's maybe left over, that's what we can be discussing and saying, okay, what's everybody's ideal, what can we do?
And that
Let's take the. Oh, I'm sorry, it's too loud.
Yeah.
Homework. One thing I want to ask, though, is just in general, I appreciate the time and effort that goes into coming up with print materials like this. Is really really helpful. I, for one, having a spreadsheet is so much easier for me to in going back and reviewing things and working with a list like this. If I actually had the spreadsheet instead of a piece of paper, it'd be a lot easier. So it might be actually easier for staff to kind of do. So when we have a report like this, if there's some way to actually send a link to the spreadsheet, it would help a whole lot.
Yes, and we could do that. And one of the limitations we have is our public records for archival reasons, they need to be put out in PDF files. And so that's why those packages, the packets go out as PDF file. But we have to put this in Excel before we put it in a PDF. So
Obviously, a
yeah.
spreadsheet. Let's see. So can we do that maybe in the next week or so with the PDF file? Maybe go through this and just each of us look at it and pick out our top 10, and also just look to see if there are any that are ranked as high, that are actually in from what we hear from people in the community, perhaps it shouldn't be quite so high. Of course, things with health and safety, bridges and elevators have a very very high priority. Is that something council wants to do? I think that would be helpful. It'd be instructive. Councilmember Fritz.
Yeah, just looking at this list, I definitely would love to get it as a spreadsheet to manipulate. I do think that just the variation, and obviously we're talking about, what is the path on which we would, fund our next $65 million. I do think that like we should definitely try to tranche it. We could say this is my top five, but someone's top five might be $10 million and someone else's top five might be $5 million. And I think that we need to rank on a threshold basis. So what is the first $1 million of spending we want? What is the next $1 million? All the way down to, the dredging. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. I don't think it's going to move up on too many people's lists, but I do think if we're trying to rank, it's important to rank, but I also think that we have to be realistic that some of these are just so widely, I think a lot of folks have spoken about the Green Streets retrofit, and that would wipe out your $12 million if we were doing that kind of tranching. So you could rank it as 5, but if that's on your 5, it blows up. I think just focusing on like ranking is important, but we also have to rank at thresholds based on what priority are we spending the first 5 million, second 5 million, third 5 million. I don't know exactly what tranche we want to break that into, but I do think thinking of it in those terms is important because $75,000 we can do a lot more with these $75,000 projects versus the multi-million-dollar projects.
Your point's well taken. I think that's a great suggestion. I don't know how we can realize that in a form that we can work with. But, staff is so ingenious. I'm sure you can come up with something. So we got to take a comment,
was
and,
good.
and Chief Bowers is on the line. Councilmember Niesel, please.
I understand that we all have different priorities, and that is why we are here at this work session. So I was hoping that we wouldn't have homework, because this is the time to do the work, and then we can make the decision on the work that we do at the next council meeting. So I was really hoping that we could leave here tonight with some clear guidance for our staff, so that they're not left kind of wondering still where we are landing.
How would you propose that we do that at this point? It's been noted that some projects are very expensive, others are not so expensive.
Yeah, so I was looking and I was seeing that, we're looking at about $5 million, it seems like, that we can kind of bear to fund.
Yes, and in the 2026, if you're looking at that sheet for the 2026 budget cycle that we funded with the 1.1, sorry, the 5.1 million, some of that funding we already had good indication of grant money that was coming in. So, for example, the youth center roof is there as a POS project because we had already had those conversations with POS, and they say yes, this is an eligible project. You just have to be able to get awarded, and so it's almost a year-long process to get on that project list.
So that's why the number is so much lower for this coming fiscal year, because it doesn't have those awards in place. Okay, so it's closer to $3 million, in which case your priority list already blows us through that.
Oh yes.
So what I loved that Mayor Jordan was doing was he was kind of working us through. We had all kind of identified something on the high priority list. What we hadn't identified was anything on the medium or low. Does anyone have anything that really stands out to them on those medium or low lists that they would like to knock up to a higher level because of what they've heard from constituents?
Well, some of the costs associated with some of these is a lot better known, while other items there are a lot of questions about what the true cost might be. And just looking at the top ones that are here, I wonder how certain we are about the structural remediations on the 6-7 wing. Is that number there? That's a number that could be a lot higher or a lot lower. We don't really. My sense is we don't really know exactly how much that's going to cost.
Yes, and actually I spoke with Tim about this because I was surprised that the 250 was that low. I thought, oh, so Tim, do you want to weigh in on that?
Well, yeah, these are really late. Mr. Kim did have an engineer come take a look at it. Mr. Kim did have an engineer take a look at it and felt that 250 was a reasonably good number. But again, I flagged it with Josue this afternoon to reach back out to Brian because it seems a little low, but because we were thinking it's gonna be more like 650. But those numbers came from Brian today, so I kind of trust that they're correct, and we'll verify in the morning.
Any comments? Medium, low, lower.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make clarification of the capital budget that's approved for 2026. We approve $5.1 million of capital expenditures. The vast majority of that money is either grant funded or ARPA funded. So it's not money that we had in our capital budget. What we have in our capital budget that we can genuinely spin from our revenues is usually that 1 million to $1.3 million, and that's that money that we set aside for road resurfacing and sidewalk improvements. So looking at the $5.1 million that was approved in the budget this year, the top numbers were the boiler center work that was ARPA funded, the chiller, the 250, that's also ARPA funded, the Greenbelt Cinema repairs for 350, that's bond bill funded, the $832,000 in 26 for the indoor pool deck remediation. That's project open space money. It came in 2 years. We're doing that expenditure over 2 years, so we're spending half of it in 1 year, in the second half in the second year. Then we had the other large ticket item was the electric vehicle infrastructure, 150. That's also bond bill money. The 350 for the pedestrian trail, that's ARPA money. The other big item is the street improvement, that 1 million. That's city money. That 1 million for street improvements is city money. The $200,000 for Vision Zero plan is federal grant dollars, and so that makes up the 5.1 million dollars. A lot of it's external money that we have secured or council appropriated from ARPA. So we have that $1 million we can count on, or up to 1.3 million that we can count on being city money. We want to use that for, obviously we've been using it for streets, but it's also that's the capital that we could leverage for as a matching dollars for other projects.
Know that money that we've set aside for streets, budget is a map, it's a plan, and over the past few years, we haven't had weather like we're having right now. So actually, that budget number that we have in there for street repairs may get blown out of the water by this incredible weather that we're having. Actually,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure how much further we can get, and I feel really bad because Chief Bowers has been on the line this whole time, unless he's well.
Before we
Yeah.
move on to vehicles, Mr. Orleans has had his hand up. I assume he wants to talk about the.
Mr. Orleans, please.
Thank you. I might want to talk about police vehicles too. But first, this night and every night, I question the motivations of everyone in the room, including myself, but most especially of council. So I continue to question
Please,
the need to say
at
that we
the
should not
beginning,
question
we
each
kind
other's
of talk about
motivations.
not disparaging
I know what we're
others.
talking about.
Please refrain
I was
from
planning.
doing that,
I was
sir.
planning to make it through the night without rising to this lectern, except for the fact that maybe the fourth time, and then there was subsequently a fifth time, that the city manager referenced the fact that he's awaiting direction from the council what to do with the Armory site. There were 3 visiting sessions held in this room about what to do with the Armory site. Council's been talking about it for years when we did not own the site. We own the site now. Council's never made a decision what to do with it. It was always assumed it would be a fire station. Other ideas came up, at least through those visiting sessions. The city manager said 4 times tonight, and then alluded to it a 5th time, what to do with it. I think clearly he's recommending raising the site and doing whatever, following whatever direction council would provide. But council is providing him no direction. At some point, council has to stop equivocating and make a judgment, make a determination, make a decision, directing the city manager to do something with that site. And then I wouldn't have to arise but as long as I'm up, reference was made to participatory budgeting, something that was in vogue 5 or 6 years ago, and that vogue invaded the city of Greenbelt. And we had a budget year in which we were discussing the budget with public participation in mind. Let me suggest to the council member Fritz that council spoke too much during that budget participatory section, as well as it's doing tonight, as it does every meeting. I look forward to a more participatory budgeting process forthcoming in the next few months. And I hope at some point between now and then, or the time I die, which could be tonight or another 5 or 6 years, council will make a decision what to do with the Armory site so that the city manager can proceed. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. Bus stop accessibility. I would like to remind council, and also Mr. Hardman, that it took council 3, maybe 4 years before they ever removed the steps at the bus stop on Hanover and Mandan Road. That's an example of how our council works.
Well, thank you for your constructive comments, sir. Appreciate it. Any other comments? But we've got a little more. to talk about with these vehicles, and I don't know how we're going to do it before 10 o'clock. But Chief Bowers has been on the line, and the fact is, we're sort of in this bubble with the vehicles, and partially that's because of the ARPA funding. We have purchased a lot of new vehicles over the past few years. So there's a replacement schedule. City manager, can you explain the replacement schedule and the criteria, or perhaps chief can do that?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I've Chief, I've opened up your right your privileges to unmute yourself should you wish to. Mr. Mayor, the list provided by the police department includes a list of vehicles with a recommendation to as to when they are scheduled for replacement. There are two things that drive the replacement schedule of vehicle. Usually, there's primarily two factors. One is the age of the vehicle, and the other is the mileage of the vehicle. If you see that year, the replacement year column, that says what year is scheduled to be replaced. Um, there are over 15 vehicles with a replacement year of 2026, and you can see their corresponding age and their corresponding mileage. So the first one on that list is a Ford Fusion 2015, so that makes it 11 years old, with 184,000 miles on it, and that's a vehicle used by investigation. So, um, Mr. Mayor, I know you are an owner of a Fusion and a proud owner of a Fusion. Um, how does the 11-year Fusion with 184 miles sound to you for police work?
Ford Fusion is actually a pretty amazing car, the hybrids, and so it's not unusual for them to get more than 200,000 miles.
So, but I think we could all agree that at 184, that's it becomes less predictable.
That's pushing it, but
Yeah.
That 100,000 threshold for replacement seems a little low.
Yeah, and you can see that every vehicle on here that's scheduled for 2026 replacement has over 110,000 miles. I see the closest to 100,000 is 110,000. That's the vehicle 870 is a 2017 Ford Interceptor. It has 110,000 miles. It is 9 years old, and that has a scheduled replacement 2 years down the road in 2028. So even by that 100,000 mile standard, we are pushing those cars a little further out. Now, the third thing that comes into place, and I think is what you see with the Ford Fusion here, the 2015, it's at 180,000, 84,000 miles, is still running. We're still you continue to use it, right? We pushed it out that far. And a chief, I know, I think Chief is a lot more knowledgeable about these vehicles than I am. So, Chief, if there's anything else you want to add, please jump in.
Yes, sir, Mr. City Manager. One of the big things on the vehicles is, in addition to the mileage and the age, it's the maintenance that starts to get very expensive. The more miles the cars get on them, as you know, and so that drives the cost of ownership for that car. So a car with 180,000 miles on it, it needs extensive maintenance on a regular basis to keep it running, and so that becomes the issue. And then becomes reliability. The vehicles are out of service, which means we're taxing spare cars we have when we have a limited number of spare vehicles. So it does become important to replace those vehicles on a regular basis, particularly the frontline patrol vehicles and our investigative service vehicles because of the heavy use that they can. So making sure that we do get we're able to sell them off with a little bit of value we can recycle back into the next group.
That makes sense. Hey, looking at this list, there are the ones that are scheduled for replacement. That's the deep red, yellow is sort of intermediate. Ones that are blue, those are vehicles that are out of commission.
The ones that are designated in blue are ones that were decommissioned this year.
Right.
One of those was totaled. One of the Durangos was parked and it was struck and totaled, and you've replaced that one. But the other ones are ones that were taken out of service this year and deadlined.
That's what deadline means.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the ones that are green are good to go?
The ones that are green are still good, yes, sir.
Okay. And looking at this list, I didn't see any that were 2025.
We did not purchase any vehicles. We didn't purchase any vehicles previous fiscal year. So fiscal year 25, we didn't buy any cars. Fiscal year 26, we've ordered 3 cars. They just haven't gone into service yet. There'll be 2 Ford Ford Hybrid Explorers, Interceptors, and then one of the Blazer EV Interceptor vehicles.
Thank you, thank you. This is an extensive list, and it's going to be hard with the budget to actually replace this many vehicles. Mr. Summerone, what are you thinking, just in terms of initially as you just are beginning to look at the budget? Are you going to put all of these vehicles to be replaced?
As much as I would like to replace 15 vehicles, I try to keep grounded to reality. It's not going to be possible. What I reviewed the budget with Chief Bowers and Deputy Chief White today, and the budget that they presented to us includes $360,000 for vehicle replacements. That will might get us to 6 vehicles. Now, if we go with all EVs, that's going to mean less than 6 vehicles. Um, Council last year, or sorry, in the current year, we approved 3 vehicles, 2 of which were hybrid vehicles and one's an EV vehicle. The hybrid vehicles cost more. Now we're unless Ford or someone else comes up with a very creative solution to get the prices of EVs down, with the loss of the EV tax credit, it's going to be the vehicles much more expensive.
Okay, so it's a reality check. Yeah. Councilmember Pope, I thought I saw your hand up.
Well, I was just going to say how much is in the budget for vehicles, but you just answered that question. And so we'll just have to, when we get to this part, we just have to do the best we can and make sure that our police officers have the equipment and the vehicles they need, because that is an essential part of their of their of their job. They need their cars.
It's an essential tool to do the
Yep.
job. Yes.
So if we can't get them electric or hybrid, then we need to just go with the flow and take what we can get right now. And not to say that we're taking EV vehicles off the table, but we need to do, we have to ensure that we have enough vehicles for our officers.
Right. If I could ask, there's a calculation on mileage. Did you just have a flat a multiplier to kind of calculate what you thought the mileage was going to be in the next year, or how'd you do that?
So what Lieutenant Upgard does is he pulls the mileage down from the gas system each month and updates the system, and you can kind of take an average of the last several months and calculate that out to get what we project the mileage to be.
Thank you, Councilmember Niesel.
Thanks. Were these the EVs that we ordered, the first 3 that would be entering the police fleet?
We order 1 EV, and that will be the first police EV vehicle.
Okay.
Fully.
Sorry, I was confusing hybrid and electric. Because do we have other hybrids?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Our preference is to buy the Ford Explorer hybrids. We in 2025 we bought a lot of Durangos, and Chief can talk more indefinite, but
It's okay.
the Durangos were available. We prefer the hybrids, the Ford Explorers, but Ford actually stopped making them for a while.
Well, no, I was just wondering because it was also my understanding that that officer had said they would be willing to be the trial person for that EV, for the electric vehicle. I just want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves on the line for additional electric vehicles in the police fleet until we've street tested and police tested the one that we that we haven't put on yet. So my choice for the next budget year would be to do just standard vehicles for replacements until we've gotten the data back from how it performed for our fleet.
I agree
that
with
make
that. I
sense?
was thinking about that too. I said, we have one and let's see how it goes. And then, because they're expensive. I mean, you don't want to end buying 5 of them and then you end up after years saying, oh, wow, this didn't work out so well.
I'm in agreement with you, and that's why we only bought 1 vehicle, the EV, so we can try it out. We also the infrastructure at the police station, we're nowhere near to be fully electrified vehicle because we need fast charging there. We just don't have that infrastructure. What we do have is to support two vehicles with level 2 charging. That's what we've installed now. So one, when we initially designed that EV charging system at the police station, was for the parking enforcement vehicle and for a future animal control vehicle. We haven't acquired an electric vehicle for animal control, so that second port there is going to be for that police vehicle. There is newer technology that's coming out of the market. Actually, it's not newer. It's a older technology that's being made popular again, and that is EV vehicles with small generators on board. Um, so the perhaps one of the more popular vehicles with this technology is the BMW i3 that has a battery pack but has a small generator to generate electricity from a gas engine to charge the battery. The Dodge Ram is trying out a truck with a V6 engine that solely powers the motor. It's really cool technology, and it's looking like that may make its way into fleet vehicles because of this anxiety of charging infrastructure in range.
Hey, just one more thought or question. So, with the unassigned spare vehicles, there are 8 of them, and there's a drop car, and that's for like special operations, and one is reserved for a new officer. So, there's 10 spares, and those are the oldest cars in the fleet.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, those are the oldest cars that we have.
Understood. And that drop car, that's for special operations, right?
So the drop car is actually one we use as a sort of a decoy. So you may see it in various parts of the city where we literally just drop it off.
Right.
And it'll sit in the parking lot and get moved around for a couple of days, and then we'll move it to another part of the city.
That's what I thought. Any other questions about this list or questions for the chief? Mayor Pro Tem?
Just a question: are there grants and other funding sources available for these vehicles besides it coming out of our replacement budget? I was trying to do, a quick search, but is that something that we have sought out so that we could maybe find alternate ways to pay for some of these vehicles rather than having it come out of our regular budget? No.
We generally cannot get a grant for police vehicle equipment.
Okay.
Unless it's, sometimes you can find some grants for particular, like, specialty vehicles. Sometimes they used to do the UASC grants for the armored vehicles. But a general patrol vehicle, you generally can't get a grant for.
Okay.
Chief, thank you so much for putting this forward. As council has said, the most important thing is, our police department needs to be properly equipped so that they can do the job on behalf of the residents of Greenbelt. So appreciate all you do, and appreciate this information that we will use as we go forward in the budget process.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And one thing, you asked me how many vehicles, and I said I want to be grounded with reality. I'm working with the constraints of the budget. But if council wants to grant us 15 vehicles, I don't think the chief is going to say no.
Not.
As many as we can get him.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground tonight. As far as further prioritization, I think if staff can kind of give us something and we could vote on it in a council meeting. But I think the most important thing is your feeling, Mr. George and Mr. Summerone, about the guidance, what you've heard. Do you have a pretty clear idea of, given the constraints that you have so adequately pointed out, particularly with the unprogrammed capital items? Do you need a whole lot of additional information?
No, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'll reiterate that we've looked at the budget and we're collecting the budgets from the teams. I've met with police department today. I also met with Public Works, and we're looking at telematic technology to add to our vehicles so that we can track fuel consumption and maintenance. Um, so we're going to do our best to bring forward a balanced budget to council. Then you get to.
Well, I'll repeat my request. That 5% somehow, either new revenue or cutting costs. That's something I'd really like to see.
There is challenge with that, and out of frankness, there's some departments that a 5% revenue increase we're talking about, let's just take the example of the police departments. How does the police department generate revenues? Fines, cameras, red light cameras, which not something that they control. Speed cameras, not something that they control. We control how many stops we make and put tickets, but that is a metric that city management and police officers have gone away from putting quotas on vehicle on tickets.
Of
Yeah,
course. But it's
yeah.
not an unusual request for a board to ask a executive director or council to ask a city manager how if you had to do this, how would you do it?
Right, and I think that a 5% cut across the board, when we are 74% of our budget is personnel, a little bit over 74%, we're talking about positions.
Guess that's why
Yeah.
the revenue piece, if you can, the combination. I'm just asking.
Yes, and I think this is where growth is important. Way that municipalities keep up with the rising cost of delivering services is that we have to have growth. I eagerly wait for what the redevelopment of the Beltway Plaza would be, because that would bring in commercial tax base and some residential, and that would be much needed tax revenue. We'll have a senior building of 90 plus condos next to the armory. That's going to generate some property tax revenue, but we're still good 2 years from that, and we don't know what Beltway Plaza is. So it's yeah, we need that growth to keep up with costs. Otherwise, we're talking about a reduction in service, and that's what your question gets at, Mr. Mayor. What does a 5% across the board cut looks like? And it is a reduction of service. So how do we prioritize what reduction of services is? Because for the last 2 years, we've eliminated some positions that, but the services hasn't gone away. I think the most tangible service that you have seen the reduction of is that we eliminated that weekend maintenance person, and that's that Saturday and Sunday litter pickup. But I thought that we hear complaints, and I warned you and kind of give you the advance notice that if you hear these complaints, it's for X, Y reason. And but I think from an efficiency perspective, we've cut a lot of the positions that we could without. We're still asking people to do more work, right? In code enforcement, Mr. Mayor, I think you asked the code enforcement supervisor directly, what does this mean, not having the code enforcement supervisor? What it meant for him is that he needed to take on that work, that extra responsibility, and divvy it up. So that's what we're talking about with a 5% across the board. Now, I'm the first one to say that we can always do something different. We can always find ways of doing something different and better, but that often means restructuring some components of our work.
Gonna do the best we can. So let's move on to information items and close things out. So there are two information items. Ms. Pompey, please.
I just wanted to make sure folks were aware of the county council listening session, which is tomorrow night at, where is it? The Glen Arden Community Center.
Yeah, that's
from
on.
6 to 8 p.m. So if anyone would like to attend that, that's for districts 4, 5, and 6. So, and I believe there's also tomorrow night a virtual town hall with Congressman Ivy. I don't know if we've sent out, the city sent out an alert about that, but he's just going to be giving some congressional updates. They unfortunately conflict, but those are just.
It's at 6, right? And
Yes.
The listening session is at 7.
It's at 6 to 8.
At 6 to 8. Okay.
So,
okay.
I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of that. That's it.
Thank you very much for bringing those up, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just was. I asked Mr. Selmarno about this earlier. If he could just give a very quick rundown of what's on the agenda for Monday, not for discussion, but just sort of the 2-minute. What do we have coming up on Monday?
I had it up earlier. I'm sorry. I need to pull it up again. I closed it. But while we're waiting for me to bring this up, Councilmember Pompey, could you send me the Ivy listening session? I do not have that on my radar. But as soon as I get it, I'll circulate it. And I did download the event happening this Saturday at the synagogue, and we'll promote that as well, because I saw that they promoted it in addition to the invitation that they sent us directly. So we will promote that event. As for as for the as for the agenda, I'm pulling this up. Let me see if I can share this. I have this on my screen, presentation mode. Oh, I can't. We will have obviously we have the standard things that we have like minutes. In the consent agenda, we have a few reports that are being committee reports that are being adopted. We have the APB report on the mandatory referral for the Spring Hill Lake Elementary School. We will schedule a later session on that report. We also have the committee report from the senior advisory committee. That's the Senior Citizens Open Forum held back in September 2025. We've got the Board of Elections report. That's the post-election report to city, which will also schedule a follow-up meeting with work session with council in the board. That is scheduled for February 25th. We'll have the PSAC committee report. There's a recommendation for PSAC to change its name to the Advisory Committee on Advancing Public Safety, short or long for ACAPS. There's been some concerns about the name PSAC, and Councilmember Pope, you might have more background information on that than I do. We'll also have a contract renewal for the Axon, the body worn camera. Currently, it's on the consent agenda, but just on the sheer amount of the project, we'll move that onto the agenda. It's a two year contract, but it's 1 year with a 1 year renewal for that two year contract. We'll also have the second reading and adoption of resolution to endorse the COG DMV moves funding proposal. And then last item on there is the discussion of legislative bills to support at the state level. We have a total of 14 bills that council indicated support for. So that will be your list of bills to support, and then there'll be a list of bills to monitor. I think Mr. George has a list of what are the bills to support and the monitor. So you'll get that list of bills to support as an action item.
Thank you,
And-
Mr. George, for doing that. Thank you.
Mhm. And I think that is the.
We had talked on Monday about the standing rules.
Yes, we need
is-
to add the standing rules. So for the standing rules with Mayor Pro Tem Weaver, the council at the work session discussed a variety of items that you wanted to address, and the work session center around a lot of the language that you have put in the standing rules as draft language. What I suggested to Council Member Weaver is that if we have that we could work on a matrix of all the proposed changes, and that way you vote up and down on the individual changes, and then we can update the language and the standing rules to reflect the changes that you voted through the matrix. That's it. Did I cover everything?
I think so. I think I meant to ask for this on Monday because I think that's useful to know what's coming.
Are there any other information items, or you want to say anything about snow removal and ice? Now that the temperature has warmed up just a little bit, it's a little bit easier. I think we actually talked about uh, the law that people have to actually clear off their sidewalks 48 hours after a storm. We talked about that last week. I think it was on Monday or Wednesday, and because of the incredibly cold temperatures, your advice was that you shared with council, and council sort of concurred, was at the time to not issue fines, but to do warnings. But it's warming up now. So what and people are asking, what are we doing about sidewalks, commercial and residential?
So, Mr. Mayor, we have been enforcing the county regulations on sidewalk clearing. The request came from a citizen to have leniency on senior citizens and individuals with mobility, and that's what we honor that request. Council expressed support for that request, and I reiterated that that's been our practice to work with the elderly and individuals with mobility challenges on clearing their sidewalks. So it was not an outright moratorium on the law. We did push for enforcement. Actually, code enforcement was issuing fines today for lack of compliance. And I've shared some of those enforcement emails with you just so that you are aware of our enforcement activities, because I know many of those property owners will come and complain to you, and then I'm the bad guy, and it's team effort. So we've done that enforcement, and the team is going to continue doing enforcement this week to ensure that those sidewalks are clear. Now, in some locations, we've gone above and beyond the enforcement. There's some of it we've done ourselves, where it poses a risk to the public. And there's other sites where it's not a responsibility, but our partners just have not been able to complete the work to our satisfaction. So, for example, just this morning at 5 something, Mr. Mayor, you're sending me text messages with photos of
4:30.
4:30. The State Highway Administration was out at I think he was heading to the gym. So we had been we had been complaining to State Highway Administration that we need Greenbelt Road clear, right? It's State Highway Road, and they had been on the southern side, on the eastbound lanes, clearing snow, but even there, was limited. So this morning they were out clearing the intersection of Greenbelt Road and Hanover. And Dr. Barnes, the principal at the Eleanor Roosevelt, had been complaining, and we had since last Saturday submitted a complaint to HSA to clear that out. Well, even after this morning's intervention, they came out with 2 loaders this morning. There was still ice left on the intersection. So Frank Kelleher, our street superintendent, went out there with our loader and cleared the rest of it. So we continue to do some of that work. So hopefully, now with the school resuming today and tomorrow, that with that ice gone, I think it would help for the flow of traffic a little better. So we've had to do things like that. Lake Crest, I meant to tell you that we cleared Lake Crest on in Prince Way on Monday, so we took care of that. So our team is going out there cleaning up areas that even fall outside of our responsibility.
Yeah, I think Public Works has done an amazing job. The city, but I mean, it's just a really difficult kind of a storm. So I think we still need to ask for a little grace and patience. But at this point, we are doing citations and insisting that particularly commercial entities take care of their sidewalk. Council Member Fritz.
Yeah. I had, you noted some of the places where the city's been helping out. I was asking some of my colleagues before the meeting started about off of BW Parkway when you're turning onto that kind of turn ramp onto Southway. I think as of this morning, it was still obstructed as I was driving by. So people are just going out and turning right, I think, from instead of using the kind of yield lane there, or not the yield lane, but the shoulder with the bollards. Is that stretch still BW Parkway? Would that be Park Service? Okay.
And that's the side I'll discuss with the team. We've had to pull them from projects to take care of other sites. So I'll discuss it with the team tomorrow and see where their availability is.
I have 2 questions from the weekly report. The shelter, I read it, and thank you to ASO Scribner. She went to take care of the animals and walked there in those conditions. So that was very brave. So thank you so much for her dedication. I saw that, let's see, Public Works was asked to do some upgrades in the backyard using donated funds, but I guess they have to dig themselves out first. I just don't want it to fall off the grid. So I just wondered what kind of upgrades those are. And there was a request for purchase of play yard equipment for the dogs and the shelter from WAGs. Is that something that request comes to you? Would that be funds from WAGs and it has to go through us?
So the request came from WAGs?
She emailed a request for the purchase of play yard equipment for the dogs in the shelter from WAGs, and it is now in discussions. I just want to make sure we will go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so something like that. Patricia Hillman reports directly to Lieutenant Apgard for the operations, and it goes up that chain of command. I don't interject myself into that. Let it go through its process. So it hasn't come up to me, but usually something like that would be Apgard would review it, and if there's funds available and for that type of purchase, they'll make that purchase. If the funding is not available, then it goes further up the chain if it's important and whether we need to find funding for it.
Okay, can you let me know, please? Can we check into that? And I'd like to know. And then what kind of upgrades for the backyard? I think that probably is a good idea. I guess, I don't know how the snow ice situation is there, but I guess it has to wait for a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it depends. I'm looking at the verbiage now. It says doing upgrades to backyard using donated funds. I hope that the donated funds are enough to cover the work of the improvements. So if that's the case, then yes. But I can tell you that for right now, Public Works is focused on snow, and then after snow recovery, we'll go back onto our regular duties, and there'll be a lot of catch-up work to do in other areas. So this just I'm looking for. I'll ask further about this, but it doesn't seem like it's an urgent matter. So
Well, not right now, because it's
yeah,
probably not, it's a bad timing, right?
right,
Mhm,
right. So
right.
this is probably the first time it's made it onto the report, but I'll track it.
I just want to make sure we don't lose it.
And we normally don't, right? Like that's why it's on that report. It's just an activity, so I'll wait for follow-up action by either Lieutenant Apgard or Deputy Chief White.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Samarone, Mr. George, staff, thank you so much for your hard work and dedication. Council, thank you for your patience. And at this time, let's close the work session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they're really nice. Giselle, the work